Assalamu alaikum and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much once again for your immense amount of interest in learning more about local taxation and how to file your income tax returns, registering yourself, filing and revising the returns. We are very glad we are joined by our very famous webinar trainer first and MNP chair second, Mr. Umar Zahir Mir, a very senior member, very well respected for his immense amount of knowledge on local taxation. Thank you very much, Umar Sahab, for joining us today, taking time out from your very busy, hectic routine every time. This time, we once again will have a huge audience and we will have active affiliates and members joining the session. However, we had thought that we will keep the level of this webinar a little higher. We will probably not go into the basics today. So may I suggest, particularly the affiliates and some new members, that if you have some very basic questions to ask, please hold on to those questions. By the end of the webinar, if you feel that you need to have another session with us about the basics of the Finance Act or the basics of how to file yourself, how to file your return or to register yourself, we can very conveniently hold another webinar on a more basic level going forward. But this session, it's only about 3 hours session, and we would want to keep it very, very focused. And since we are running a very tight agenda, we will try to keep, as close to the topic as possible. You're more than welcome to put in your questions. We will try to filter out some questions though. So the more simpler ones, we'll try to hold back. However, if you still don't get answers to your questions, you can wait for the next webinar, or otherwise you can get in contact with Mr. Omar in his free time to ask some more questions if you have to. Without taking a lot of time, I must tell all of you that the knowledge of local taxation is immensely important for the kind of work that any member or any affiliate is doing in any sector at any part of their careers. I mean, just imagine one wrong or outdated information about the tax procedures or the tax regulations, and you can conveniently cause a lot of damage to your employer, your client, and to your own self also. So I must say that these sessions are extremely important and to be taken very, very seriously. We are recording this session, and if you have any doubts in your mind or if you want to repeat any specific part of this webinar, you can very conveniently go to the recording and attend that part of the webinar again. Now, some very basic housekeeping rules for those people who are attending a webinar for the first time. I'm sure most of you have already attended webinars, but just as a matter of making sure that everybody knows how to operate this interface, your GoToWebinar menu, which slides out or goes back in on the right hand side of the screen, if you can slide it out, you will see a main menu, which is file options, view help, and you have some sub menu options, so which are attendees, polls, questions, handouts. I mean, the questions dialog box is the most important for you. So any questions that you want to ask, please type it in the questions dialog box. We are sitting here, my colleague Junaid Shafi is sitting with me. So we will be looking at your questions throughout the session. Your questions are recorded. So just as you type in your question and you submit it, it goes into a log as well. So end of the session, we will have a complete list of all the questions asked and all the answers given. So just keep typing in your questions. We will only answer your questions just as there's a question and answer break. In between, we'll try to stick to the flow of the webinar. So with that, thank you very much once again for your interest in this very important subject. My last announcement before I hand over to Mr. Omar, my last announcement is that all of you who are participating in this webinar, except for those who participate for less than 30 minutes, all others will get a certificate of participation through email in about 3 to 5 working days. In that email with the certificate attached, we will also share the presentations being made today with you. We will also share a link to the webinar recording with you, yeah, and any other resource material that is used in this discussion. We will share all those with you. So please note that down. Just be patient, keep watching your emails after this session for more details about your certificate of participation for CPD, etc., etc. With that, I will hand over to Mr. Umar Zahir, who's very impatiently waiting to get cracking onto the subject. Thank you very much, Mr. Umar, once again, and over to you.
Thank you, Harun sir. That was wonderful. I think you pretty much covered all the preliminaries. Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to all of you. As Harun sir has informed you, today's session is focused on income tax returns, registering, filing, and revising. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bashrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. O Allah, open my heart and ease my task for me, and remove the impediments from my speech so that they may understand what I say. First things first, some of you would be aware of your trainer today. For those who are attending my session for the first time, I'll just quickly run through my intro. I'm a highly IT literate and experienced accounting, finance, management, and economics professional, holding a very own prestigious fellowship membership of ACCA, FCCA, the CFA Charter, the CPFA, the anti-money laundering specialization, and several other professional diplomas and qualifications, along with 15 years plus fund of experience gained by working in international as well as Pakistani corporations. I'm honored to have received the Exceptional Public Value Awards for 2 years running, as well as the National Advocacy Award of ACCA. I'm also a member of the Global Tax Forum and chairman of Pakistan's MNP and Taxation Subcommittee. I have extensive experience as a top taxation expert. It's a bit embarrassing saying that yourself anyway. At the moment, I'm working as the managing partner taxation and corporate services at Millennium Law and Corporate Company, which happens to be the pioneer ACC practicing firm in Pakistan. And I also sit on the board of several corporate entities and think tanks. Besides, with regard to training, I'm an experienced trainer, having worked with esteemed organizations in corporate, public, and academic sectors. My portfolio includes having conducted mandatory promotional trainings of government officers at MPDD for Punjab government, professional trainings of National Bank of Pakistan, MCB, Habib Bank Limited, Lahore Tax Bar, Karachi Tax Bar, Pakistan Tax Bar, Karachi, Lahore Chambers, our very own ACCA, Bahria University, UAT, etc., etc. For those of you who do like to read, I've been a regular contributor in most national and international English language publications such as Daily Nation, Times, Pakistan Today, Express Tribune, and the renowned research journal Blue Chip. I'm also a life member and currently the chairman of Finance and Economic Affairs Committee of Lahore Tax Bar. I've been previously, I have served as for 4 times as chairman of Liaison Committee of Lahore Tax Bar. I've also served on the Finance, Economy and Taxation Committee of Lahore Chamber. I'm also an advisor to several parliamentarians on taxation and economic affairs. Besides that, well, most of this is what you'll find anyway, so I guess that's pretty much about me. These are some of the major clients and associations and a listing of academic professional qualifications. Since you'll be having this presentation, you'll be able to see that in your free time. Now let's save the time and move into the thick of things. As Harun has shared with you, we'll have to skip some of the basics and in between, but do not worry because we have agreed we'll see how the session goes. And if need be, we can have a follow-up session too. So just hold your thoughts on that. If you think you require a follow-up, just let us know and we'll be more than happy to arrange that. So we'll begin with registering for the income tax, and that would be divided between salaried individual and the classes of business. Then we'll discuss about e-enrollment, the basics. Then we'll talk about checking the status of a tax registered person on active taxpayer list. We'll then talk about the tax deduction for salaried individual and the rule of employers. We'll then move on to the filing of income tax return by employees, salaried individual and businesses. We'll also talk briefly about filing of the revised tax returns, the tax rate for the current year, and ancillary issues. Although we have listed question answer session as a separate individual item, we'll be having regular question answers break in between. So I suggest if you have a question in your mind, just type it in the box, and whenever we have the question answer break, we can answer that. That way, we'll both end up saving time. So just type your questions. With that, let's begin with the first thing, registering for income tax. First things first, how many types of taxpayer there are? Well, you can broadly categorize that in two types, salaried individuals and businesses. We have further categorization in businesses, whether it's the sole proprietor, an AOP, association of partnership, which people commonly refer to as the partnerships, or the company. We'll cover those aspects. So first things first, how do we register as a salaried individual for income tax? Well, to register for income tax, you have to apply for something that used to be referred to as the national tax number. Now they simply call it the registration number, and your CNIC number is what is now registered as your registration number. So for salaried individual, you have two options. You can either do that offline by filling out the form, taking the required documentation to one of your local tax offices at the facilitation centers there, and then just have it registered. Or being the salaried individual, you have the option to do that from the comfort of your home. Fill out the online form, attach the relevant documentation, submit it, that's it, you are good to go. I'll have to skip that, unfortunately, because these are the basics. But as Harun Sahab has already shared and I've told you, if you deem these things are important and by the end of session, you do think you need another session, just let us know. So you have all the requirements listed there. I've still included these things because these are vital. So you'll have this available for you to go through it in your spare time. What you basically need is proof of your identification, CNIC or passport copy, copy of the recent utility bill, ideally the electricity bill, fill out the relevant form, copy of the owner of the premises if it's a business individual, or if the property is not owned by yourself, then the rentee. You, in case of a salaried individual, you need the salary slips or the employment letters. Employment letter would be appropriate for new employees who are yet to receive their first salaries. So that's pretty much it. Well, these are just the procedural things. You can go through them. Your NTN certificate, if you are applying in person, can be received at the counter. Well, that's what's still listed on FBR site. But let me tell you something. Practically, the concept of picking up a certificate is long gone. You don't get certificate anymore. Whether you are applying in person or online, you are given a password for the iris, which we'll see in a bit when we'll talk about filing of the return. And you have the order 181 of your registration in iris, which practically now serves as your certificate. So for online method, you have to go to FBR, and I guess we have internet working, so I'll just quickly show you how to do that. So all you need to do is just go to FBR's website, and this is in case you are an individual, salaried individual. Click here on iris. Now you have this dialog box in front of you, and you can see just beneath the forgot password line, you can see registration for unregistered persons. You'll click on this. It will ask you a few details. These are your personal details. your CNIC name, contact number, email. You'll fill in these details. Click on submit button. You have to enter the security captcha as well. As soon as you'll press the submit button, you'll receive a code on your mobile number and you'll receive another different code on your email. A new dialog box could open up which will ask you for both these codes. So you'll enter these codes and then you'll click submit again and you'll be taken inside Iris. And largely your registration process would be complete. You'll just simply need to attach the evidence like your electricity bill, copy of your CNIC, and copy of the property deed if that is applicable, and your salary slip, and then you'll be good to go. That's all. Not very difficult, is it? Okay. So okay. Next thing is next. Okay, next. What about e-enrollment? How do you actually do e-enrollment? Well, Saroma, what is e-enrollment? We just registered, right? So, yeah, you registered, but in order to complete the process, you still need to e-enroll. So, how does e-enrollment work? Well, there are two processes actually. If you are the first time registrant, then as I told you, you'll simply click on, okay, this screen is not changing. I think I need to get out of here. Okay, so if you are an absolutely first time registrant and you have never been registered with the FBR before, that's the way you'll just click on registration for unregistered person. And as I've told you, after the process is completed, attach the evidence and your e-enrollment would be completed. However, some people registered for NTN a long time ago, but either they did not file their online returns, or they just became dormant, they stopped filing their returns, or they never went for the online registration, or whatever the issue, they are not in the IRIS system. So they have another option. Remember, these are the people who are already registered for NTN, but they are not registered for this online IRIS system. So they'll click on this e-enrollment for registered personnel. And you'll have a similar dialog box open, slightly smaller, but similar. You'll enter your CNIC, your cell number, your email. It would pull out your details from the database. And if you are already registered with FBR for your income tax, it would pull out the details. If FBR does not hold your record, it would tell you so. That's why you are not in the database. And in that case, you need to go back to the previous option that we discussed and register. Let's assume you were registered and this option was applicable. Again, you'll fill in the relevant details, your cell number, your email, capture, your CNIC. It would pull out the details and again send two codes, security codes, to your cell number and to your email. Again, after you have submitted this form and received the code, you'll just enter the codes in the new dialog box, click submit, and that's it. Your e-enrollment would be completed and you'll receive your ID and password. Your ID would basically be your CNIC, and then you'll have an option to change the password as well. So remember, this is in case you were previously, or someone, your client was previously registered for income tax purposes with FBR. However, they were not enrolled for the online system, the e-enrollment. If I'm repeating again, this is a first time registration, then you'll go to this option, registration for unregistered person. I hope that should be pretty much clear. Now let's move on. Okay, basically this is the form that you have to submit. Unfortunately, I won't be able to spend too much time here, but as I've told you, if you require, we can hold another session, and this is quite self-explanatory. It's basically your basic details, your business details, line of business, contact details, and then you save the registry and all. You provide your bank details if applicable, branch details, business details. and then you are good to go. We have already discussed about e-enrollment, so that's done. Let's move forward to the next area. So far, so good. We have talked about registering a salaried individual. Well and good. What if we are talking about registering a business? Can we do that? Yes, of course. Can we do that online? Unfortunately not. And it might be amusing to you. Almost a couple of years ago, FBR introduced this system where they allowed the businesses to register online. So this is kind of a leap backwards that in the last 2 years they have finished that, and now they require you can submit the application online, but then you actually have to take all the evidences, all the documentation, and in case of an AOP, Association of Persons, one of the partners or members has to visit the FBR in person. In case of the company, the principal officer, whoever that may be appointed by the company, has to visit the FBR, submit the documents in person, give their biometrics, and then the registration is completed. So it is slightly cumbersome in the case of business, a bit unfortunate with all the technology at our disposal and the low ranking we already have for Pakistan in terms of ease of doing business. So you can see the kind of hassles business face. A salaried person can do it sitting from their home, but a business individual who perhaps would be several times busy, the owner, the investor, the partner, the principal officer actually has to take time out and go to FBR to do the same process. One thing that they do differently is take the biometrics, but even that can be done. I mean, you can submit all your document and evidences online and then just go on a free time to do biometrics. Or as ACCA, we have given a proposal, me being the chairman of taxation committee for last 3-4 years now. I know this as a fact that every year we send these proposals to FBR, that we have these softwares now that you can introduce this particular features with security checks online, just facilitate the businesses. Anyway, till it changes, it is what it is, and you have to comply with the law of the land until it is changed. So the detailed process, what I've told you was the summary. These are the detailed processes. Again, I'll quickly cover them, but unfortunately, we might not be able to go through them in extensive details. For that, we can have a follow-up session. So for registering NTN for a partnership or association of persons, what do you need? The original partnership deed. So what do I mean by original partnership deed? Your partnership agreement, and in case it was registered with the firm registrar, the certificate you got, the firm registration certificate. These both of these would be required. So then you would also need the CNICs of all the partners or members in the AOP. Why I have written members? Because, and listen to this very carefully, we commonly think that AOP just means partnership. No, AOP means association of persons. So it can be any association. It can be a trust as well. Partnership is just one type of the AOP. There are several other types. So if, for example, you are you're like a trust, then this would be applicable to all members of the trust, commonly referred to as the trustees. However, if you are a partnership, then this is applicable for all the partners. So you need the original partnership deed, you need the original registration certificate, you need the CNICs of all the partners or members, depending on which structure of AOP you want to register for NTN. You would also need a original letter on the letterhead of the AOP signed by all the members or partners, authorizing any one of the member or partners for the process of income tax or sales tax, or both, the process of registration for these. You would also need a cell phone with the SIM registered against the CNIC of the authorized member, but it should not be the one already registered with FBR. So if, for example, I'm one of the partner, I may be previously registered for my personal NTN, right? So the number that I've used for my personal NTN cannot be used again to register my firm. So ideally, the firm can get a new mobile connection in my name if I'm the authorized person, or I can use another cell phone registered in my name. By cell phone, I mean the SIM. Next, we'll also need an email address belonging to the association of person that we are registering. The the original certificate of maintenance of bank account in association's name, the original evidence of tenancy, if the business premises, the office address is rented. What if the business premise is owned by the association of person? Then the ownership document. Well, what if, Sir Umar, the business premise is owned by one of the partners? Well, then the tenancy agreement by the partner in the favor of this AOP. Simple. We would also require an original paid utility bill not older than the last 3 months in case of AOP. And it should have the same address as the address, the business address that AOP has provided for registration. Again, the duly completed application form along with the copies of the required documents would need to be submitted at any of the regional tax office or the tax facilitation center. The registration order should be received in person at the RTO by the applicant or their authorized representative. In case the taxpayer is to register for sales tax as well, then the certificate will be delivered by the authorized officer to the concerned applicant in person. If you are also applying for sales tax along with the national tax number, then in that case, you cannot send an authorized representative as per theory. You should go there. What about practice? Well, if you have a good enough working relationship, that shouldn't be a problem. Well, practice is always different than theory, right?
Absolutely.
So next up, registering for income tax for company. So we have spoken about registering an individual for income tax, the e-enrollment process, registering the AOP including firms, trust, etc. for income tax. How about company? Is that a bit different? Well, the crux of the process is same, but there are slight difference because of the structure. So the documentation required is different. Then the concept of principal officer comes in. So let's quickly go through this again. I'll briefly go through this and you can write if you have any questions. If after the end of the session I have time, after answering all the relevant questions, I would love to answer them. If you at the end of the session deem we require another session, surely we'll arrange that. So for the company, first things first, we'll need the incorporation certificate. Look how these things relate. You know that a company is created after you have the incorporation certificate, and in case of firm, you have the partnership deed. So while in case of firm, you needed the proof of the existence of firm, the partnership deed, the same is the concept in the case of the company. The underlying theme is the same. You need the evidence. The document differs due to the legal structure. In case of the company, it's the incorporation certificate. Then you require the CNICs of all the directors. Remember, in case of the firm, you needed the CNICs of all the directors, right? Partnership structure. So in company, there are no partners, there are only directors. So you would need the CNICs of all the directors. Again, you'll need an original letter on the letterhead of the company signed by all the directors, verifying who is the principal officer and authorizing him or her for income tax and sales tax registration. Again, you'll need a cell phone with SIM registered against the name or the CNIC of this principal officer, but this particular SIM number should not already be registered with FBR. So same concept as in the case of partnership. You can't do this, that just use the personal number that you have already used. Can you do me a favor? Just ask the name and tell them I'll call them that. Then you'll require an email address belonging to the company. Again, that's needed for security purposes as well as sending you FBR correspondence, the codes, etc. So ideally, you should make sure that this is an official email address of the company. You'll also need the original certificate of maintenance of business account in the company's name, original evidence of tenancy if the business premises are rented. If the business premises are owned by the company, you need the business premises ownership documents. Thank you. You'll also require an original paid utility bill of the business premises, again, no older than last 3 months. That would leave us with the last proposition. There's also a concept some of you might have heard, especially those dealing with the tax aspects of business is a non-resident company. So if we have a non-resident company which at the moment does not have any permanent existence in Pakistan, then what would we do? We'll still need all this documentation with slight change. What would be the changes? We would need the incorporation certificate of the company in their original country of residence. So for example, let's say there is a Swiss company that's operating in Pakistan through an authorized representative, but they do not have any permanent establishment here at the moment. Maybe they are testing the market to launch a product or whatever, they are in the preliminary phases, but still need to register for the tax. So in that case, you would need this documentation, but since they would not yet be incorporated in Pakistan, you would need the original incorporation certificate from Switzerland. One thing. Secondly, you would need the copy of the CNIC of the authorized representative in Pakistan. And again, the letter would authorize him, and rest of the requirements would be the same. Then the process is pretty much same as in the case of a firm. Duly completed application form along with copies of required documentations have to be submitted at the tax facilitation center at one of the regional tax offices. The certificate can be collected in person by the authorized rep or the principal officer. They can also authorize one of their authorized representative, like a lawyer, tax consultant, to pick it on their behalf. If they issue a power of attorney, authorize them. But as per theory, it cannot happen if they have also applied for sales tax. In that case, they need to personally visit and confirm and collect their tax registration documents. So that's pretty much it. We are done with the registration and e-enrollment section. So if you have any questions now, I would love to take. And after we take these questions, you can ask me directly. We actually have one lucky member here who is attending it in person. So, gee.
There is a question from Abdul Rahman Mukar. He says that does a sole proprietor also need to register through FBR in person, or it can be done online?
Well, with regard to a sole proprietor, it can largely be done online. You would need to submit the documentation online, just like I've told you. After you have completed the registration process, you will need to submit the business documents online.
There is another interesting question from Shoaib Ahmed. He says that kindly please tell us the process of registration for overseas Pakistanis, the backbone of Pakistan.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Now, frankly speaking, an overseas Pakistani shouldn't really need to register for tax if they are not earning anything in Pakistan, right? Now, what has happened, and the current government is about to change that, is that because there is a gap between filers and non-filers, so when overseas Pakistanis have account in Pakistan and they are sending remittance here and their families are withdrawing from that account and all that, so they end up being penalized as non-filer. So what they have to do is to become filer. Although as per the concept of taxation, if they do not have any earnings in Pakistan, they do not need to be registered for tax. However, because of the filer non-filer differentiation, people are inherently encouraged so that they will have lower tax rate incidence and get the benefits of the filer. So what actually happens is the same process that I've shown. Depending on what they are, if they are an individual, they just register for a business individual and file their returns as nil or below taxable limit, so they don't end up paying any tax. But by filing that return, they become a filer and start enjoying the benefits and lower tax rates of filers. So that is what is happening at the moment in practice. However, that is about to change because while I was away representing Pakistan on Global Tax Forum recently, I have heard that the incumbent government was working with FBR to change that and facilitate the overseas Pakistanis where they would not need to register for income tax if they do not have any taxable income in Pakistan, but they would still get the benefits of a filer. So let's see that. Next.
Yes, there is another question from Bilal Khan. He says that is it mandatory that a principal officer should be a director, or he can be anyone?
Well, SCCP, Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan, has a particular law which is referred to as the Companies Act 2017 that outlays the condition who can be a principal officer. Just to summarize and answer your question, your company secretary can be your principal officer as well. So it has to be a high-ranking official, basically the crux of the law, which can either be the director, the company secretary, someone who is highly responsible. Next.
There's another question from Adil Nasir. He says that if a company has more than one bank account, so it should have to provide all bank account details or only one primary account.
Well, in practice to register, you can just simply provide one primary account. In theory, you should provide all the accounts in the company. So your choice now. Next.
There is another question from Abdul Salam. This is regarding some documents. He says that we are planning to register a UK-based company in Pakistan. So, what kind of documents will be required for registration in Pakistan from a person in UK who has a company in UK?
Well, it would depend what structure would you like to take. Are you creating a business in Pakistan, maybe a partnership, or a company, or a sole proprietorship? If a company, would that be an independent setup or the subsidiary of the UK company? If it's none of these structure, are you having an authorized representative? Would you create a permanent establishment in Pakistan or not? So the answer to all these questions would determine what exactly will be required of you. But I've almost covered all these scenarios in the slides before, so you should be able to answer that. If not, just let me know, I'll be happy to answer. But just let me know what you are planning to do, the kind of structure you want to create in Pakistan. Next.
Almost a similar question from Awais Mumtaz, but I feel that it should be addressed, that how to register a foreign subsidiary in Pakistan without a branch office.
Well, I've just covered that when I covered the permanent establishment. That basically answered your question, that it is a business of an overseas company without any permanent establishment in Pakistan. So that would be applicable. Next.
Then there are a few very basic questions. I guess your first couple of slides will cover them. So that's it for now. I think we should proceed further.
Will the foreign amnesty claimed? Why have you left the questions asked before this? There were a lot of questions asked before this too.
Before the start of the session?
No. Yeah, just go ahead after the start of the session. The first question you raised was about sole proprietor, right?
Yeah.
If we go up, we have where will the foreign amnesty claim be shown in wealth reconciliation? Then we have 5-minute Asr Maghrib prayer break, definitely. We'll have a 5 minutes break shortly. CPD regarding these sessions and previous one will be automatically included. Arun has explained that. Will webinar cover all types of returns? Well, that's the idea, depending on time or Salam. Aslan basically asked, will webinar cover all type of returns like individual, company, and AOP returns? Is it mandatory to disclose the provident fund receivable accrued as an asset in wealth statement? Not necessarily, depends on your circumstances and the terms of the provident fund, whether it's a private or a public sector fund, and what are the terms in terms of when are you able to withdraw that, and what is the status of the accrued benefits. We only have 2 subsections available here. One is audio and the other one is questions. Participants cannot see post section or attendees section. Okay, I'll leave that to my friend here to answer. When I'll take the break, he'll answer that. Really interested for the income tax return of overseas Pakistanis, just answer that. How is basic salary calculated? We are about to cover that, so hold on to that. What is the rule for medical allowance for salaried individual? Is it based on basic salary or gross salary? Well, that becomes part of your gross salary. How is medical allowance calculated for salaried person? We'll be discussing that hopefully. First of all, Harun, your new look is mashallah to inspire. Okay, Harun is gone. I'll pass that on. I am in the office using 3D. Okay, the rest I think are technical questions. Okay, so we are good to go, and I think Asad ki azan ho gayi hai, right?
Yes.
Okay, we'll just take a very quick 9 minutes break. So you'll have to go quickly, say the namaz and come back. I wish I could take a longer break, but we already have a very limited time and I do not wish us to go here with incomplete thoughts. So it's 4:41 with me and I'll see you all at 4:50. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome back. I hope आप सब नमाज पढ़ के आ चुके हो and you are all feeling very fresh. Let's continue. So we ended with the question answers and we had covered about registration of individual, salaried individual, business individual, the registration of AOP as well as company for taxation purposes and the e-improvement. Now we'll move on to another important part. How do you check whether a person is filer or non-filer? Well, filer or non-filer are the most commonly used term, but the list where you actually see whether someone is filer or non-filer is referred to as the active taxpayers list, or ATL for the abbreviation. There are two ways as per FBR to verify the status of any taxpayer or any person, whether they are active filer or not. One is through the SMS system and the other is online verification system. The SMS system in between sometimes acts funny, so mostly the professionals prefer to use the online system, but you can use any system that you are comfortable with. So you have the SMS system on your screens. What you need to do is send an SMS. We also call that text to 9966. And what you do, you type ATL in capital, you put in a space, then you write the 13-digit CNIC number without any dashes. So you have the example there, ATL 35201780374008. And for businesses, you do similar thing, but instead of CNIC, you enter the NTN number with a dash, slight change. I know lack of standardization has been an issue with some FBR practices, but that's the way how things work at the moment. So once again, for individual, send an SMS to 9966 ATL space CNIC number without any dashes. For business, send an SMS to 9966 ATL space NTN number with a dash. Practically, as I've told you, this system at times goes down. So what's the other option? And let me show you. How about that? So again, this is the FBR website we opened, fbr.gov.pk. If you scroll down, you can see in e-services, online verification portal. Click on this, and you have these several options. Okay, so you have all these options right in front of you. First of all, we have the active taxpayer list for income tax. You can click on this, and it would open this window in front of you. You'll have to type the registration number, whatever CNIC number is there, or the business registration, the date of their registration, enter the captcha, click on verify, and it will give you the details of the taxpayer and whether they are active taxpayer or not. Then you have a separate list for AJK. Why you have a separate list for AJK? Because constitutionally, AJK is like an autonomous region. So it does not come within the definition like for the rest of the Pakistan. I know it might come as a surprise to some of you at least. Anyway, the same process for AJK, you just enter the registration number and the captcha, verify, you'll have the details. Then you have active taxpayer list, which is the combined list, but instead of online, it is a downloadable file. You can click on it and it would download, and I'll show you this for better understanding. It would take just a minute, so let's continue. Then you have active taxpayer list for sales tax. It's getting funny, you have to enter your login details here. Then you have the blacklisted taxpayers list for sales tax. Again, you can simply enter the NTN number or the CNIC of the relevant party or the sales tax number of the relevant party, enter the image characters and see whether they are blacklisted or not. So you have these various options to verify the tax status of a filer. One of the most common one and easier to use is this online NTN STRN inquiry. You click on this, you just select the parameter, whether you want to verify using NTN, sales tax number, CNIC, passport or registration number. Let's assume we are going with CNIC. enter the relevant details of the person you want to verify or the business. And then you do that and it will show you the details. I would like to show you actually, but for all the clients, we are bound by data protection and confidentiality. So maybe if one of you is comfortable sharing their CNIC and we can see whether they are registered or blacklisted or not. If anyone is willing, please go ahead and I can give you an actual demo. You can type that in the questions dialog box. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, good. We've got 3
straight away. And we have more and more coming. So I'll just go with the first one.
People want to learn.
Yeah. Can you just read out this first CNIC to me?
Yeah. 3310
Mm-hmm.
4177
Mm-hmm.
42
Mm-hmm.
561.
Let me just copy that in case it goes bad. I don't have to type it again. Let's verify it. No record exists. So you are not even registered for tax yet. So can I have the next CNIC?
Sure. 35202
Mm-hmm.
8009
Mm-hmm.
4169.
Okay, so we have done that. Now HTO, FTL, verify that. Let's see. Oh yes, so this is Mr. Mohammed Mohsen Bharti, and he is, as you can see, only registered for income tax, and he is an active taxpayer, so he is a filer. So that's how it's verified. If he was registered for sales tax, you will also have the sales tax details just like this, when he was registered and whether he is active or not. So I hope this makes it clear and you have a clear understanding how you can verify whether someone is on active taxpayer list or not. There are so many different ways you can do this now. And as I promised, I'll show you the combined active taxpayer list that we downloaded for your ease. It will take a second to load because it's a lot of data. We are midway there, it's almost 50%. Okay, here we are. So now you have 5 parts of this document, and you can see you have the CNIC numbers, the serial number, the NTN, and name of the business. So for example, let's say I wanted to check this Power Traders. I wanted to check whether Power Traders is on active taxpayer list or not. So I've downloaded this file. I'll just do Control F. I'll enter the NTN or CNIC number that I have available, and I'll click on Options. Because this file has 5 sheets, I'll select workbook from here. So even if the required information is not on this sheet, but maybe on part 2, 3, 4, 5, the result would still include that. So I'll click on the Find, and here we go. It has pulled out the detail for me that my required business is included in the income tax active taxpayer list. If it was a sales tax one, then I'll use the other option for the sales tax files, which I've shown you. I'll quickly re-show you in case you missed it the first time. So these are the income tax lists. This is the sales tax list. This is the joint income tax sales tax inquiry, and this is the sales tax blacklist. We also have now this system to verify the CPR, which we refer to as the bank challans, any notices, and the exemption certificates. So not a bad system. Some good developments in terms of the online developments by FBR. So now we are done with checking the status of tax registered person or business on ATL. We have done the demo and all, so this is all done. Let's proceed. Okay, next up, tax deduction for a salaried individual and the role of employer. One of the most common question that I often encounter is, who is responsible for deduction of tax for a salaried individual? Any ideas? The employer. But what if the employer did not deduct properly? Then what? You'll catch the employer. But then what if the employer has gone bust or disappeared? Unfortunately, you'll go after the employer. That's how the law works. Anyway, first things first, it's normally referred to as in the professional circles as a withholding tax. Why? Because this tax is withheld at the time of making payment to you. Hence the concept of withholding. Some people associate withholding with income or sales tax, which is not right. Withholding is present in both income and sales tax. The concept of withholding is that you are withholding the amount at the time of making the payment, or at least you are supposed to. So an employer is supposed to deduct withholding tax from the salary of a salaried individual at applicable tax rates as per their income slabs and filing status. Income slabs, samajh aati hai sir. Why filing status? Well, because if you are a non-filer, you normally end up paying higher taxes. And if you are a filer, then many of your withholding taxes are adjustable and hence result in lower incidence of tax deduction on your salaries. So withholding tax deducted on salary is operated under section 149 of Income Tax Ordinance 2001. And you would have seen that when you get the tax deduction certificate at the end of the year, which by the way, you are supposed to get from your employer. If not, you can always ask for it. It should mention that the deduction was under section 149 of Income Tax Ordinance. The employer then is required to issue a tax deduction certificate to the employee and deposit any tax that they have withheld into the national exchequer, the treasury. And then they are required to keep the declaration signed by the employee for 5 years. Okay, again, this declaration is available on FBR's website. We can't go into much details in this. If you are interested and required, as I said, we can hold another session. So SRO 791 subsection 1 public 2015 dated 11th August 2015 made it mandatory to file returns online for all individuals. So for most of us who are tech savvy, good news. For many of the practitioners from the previous generations, not such a good news. But this is something you should be aware of, that for individuals now, all the returns are filed online. So the actual deal now, filing of income tax returns. So we have covered the tax registration for individual and various forms of businesses, the e-enrollment, active taxpayer list for businesses and individual for income tax and sales tax. So if you have any questions till now, please feel free to ask them. I would like to answer them before I move on to the next session, which would comparatively be a longer session. And our associate is a bit away. So let me check your questions myself till he comes back. So we have answered questions here. Okay, so here we are. Wow, we have a lot of questions. Okay, so principal director was the last question. Welcome back. So you have asked, Bilal Khan has asked a difference between resident and non-resident. Well, non-resident is someone who spends more than half a year outside Pakistan. Resident is someone who spends 186 days in Pakistan. Sir, kindly share the slides. Awais Rafiq already left. Well, Awais, as most of the participants know, Harun Sab has already announced that they will be shared in 3 to 5 working days?
Yes,
3 to 5 working days after the end of the session. Hassan, what if one want to register voluntarily? if one is receiving remittances. Sure, you can register in the manner I've told you. Asif Tahir, can you please explain after getting NTN number? Well, Asif, I believe your question would have been answered, and we are about to see how the tax returns are filed. But if you want to know more about like the enrollment process or other basic details, just let us know at the end of the session. And as Harun has already shared with you, we will be more than happy to arrange another session for you, if sufficient of you guys are interested. Sayyid Haris Ahmad, what is the procedure for non-resident individuals who don't have Pakistan cell number? Buy a Pakistan cell number? How difficult is that? Or have a representative use theirs, right? Authorize someone, not so difficult. We register for filing of return or not? Asif, I think you probably joined a bit late. I have explained this at length that you have to register for NTN, National Tax Number, and only after that you can file your tax return. So yes, you have to register for filing your tax return. Adil Nasser, if a company have more than one bank account, so it should provide all bank account. Well, this was, I guess, previously answered. Please explain how we submit our personal details. Already explained. Abdul Salam, hi, we are planning to register UK-based company. Already answered. Rehan Siddiqui, I am Ali Imran. Right? The name is Rehan Siddiqui, but he's saying I'm Ali Imran. So Ali Imran, why do you use the name of Rehan? Or Rehan, why are you becoming Ali Imran? Anyway, I'll answer the query though. Hi, I'm Ali Imran from UAE. To become filer, should I file tax return for non-resident person along with wealth statements? Yes, you should. Awais Mumtaz, how to register foreign subsidiary in Pakistan without branch office. Before break, I told the process for foreign company without permanent establishment. And that is also on the presentation slide that you'll be getting. You would follow that process. Muhammad Ayaz bin Nisar, can you provide a little more information on NTN certificate, like what? I told you it's redundant. Unfortunately, it's still written on FBR's website and all, but practically the order under section 181 has replaced it, and that acts as your NTN certificate. Okay, well, previously FBR used to issue you NTN certificate, which you used to print out or get the colored copy or get from FBR or whatever, and actually frame that and put in your shops, companies, and other places. Not anymore. What happens now is you just get the order of 181, you print that and keep that for your records. Imad Ahmed, can more than one sole proprietor be registered on one NIC? A sole proprietor is one guy. I believe he means to say, can more than one businesses be operated by one sole proprietor? Of course, no problem. You can have as many businesses you want, have 10 businesses, doesn't matter. If you are the sole proprietor, they will all be registered on your CNIC. The answer is yes. Adnan Ahmed, primary account can be any personal account for company purposes. No, sir. For company purposes, a company account in company's name. Mubashir Bukhari, a company sells product to distributor without charging tax. Oh, without tax invoice. Distributor sells product to wholesaler with profit margin without charging tax. Okay. Wholesaler sells product to retailer with profit margin without charging tax. Retailer sells product to the consumer without issuing tax invoice, but the price mentioned on product is rate plus tax is equal to price. At what stage the government is getting the tax? All entities except the company are not registered for tax. Well, Mubashir, from what you have told, none. This has been an illegal chain of transaction, which resulted in black monies and black economy. So basically, you have broken a signal, or you have been involved in an accident, if I can give an example, and you have not yet been caught. But it's recorded somewhere on a camera, most likely, and there's a likelihood that one day when they have sufficient capacity, you will get caught. Naveed Askur, can you please tell me that how much amounts land can be bought by us without becoming filer? I think it was 5 million. We changed it to 4 million, then reverted back to 5 million. And I think by land, you mean property. So non-filers can't buy property more than more than 5 million. Initially, it was 4 million. I can even tell you the reason, which you probably wouldn't have heard before. Pakistan Revenue Automation Limited, the IT wing of FBR, you can't really call it a wing, it's more like a separate entity, has this system in place where it has automated system which highlight any property transaction over 4 million. So it ties up nicely with the IT system for the audit purposes as well. Harun Habib, what is the frequency by which FBR updates ATL? At the moment, every week, starting from this tax year, like when the returns period would end, maybe in February or March, whenever, depending on how many extensions you get, whenever they release the next tax list, after that, once a year. So previously, it used to be every week, so people got so easy, it doesn't matter, even if we are late, we'll file the return when we need to. They have answered that. Now, if you do not file your return by the due date, you still have to file that. That's a legal responsibility. You'll still likely get penalized. You'll have to pay fine and surcharges. Plus, you will not get any benefit of a filer for a whole year. So how's that? Would make us file on time, right? Yeah. So enjoy while it lasts. Muhammad Arsalan Riaz. Are they able to see this screen or that screen
only? I guess that screen only.
Okay.
They haven't seen the questions.
Okay. So Muhammad Arsalan Riaz has asked, FBR issued an SRO 781 year for reduced rate of 5% on IT and IT-enabled services in Islamabad. Please clarify which companies. I would love to, Arsalan, but not part of today's topic, so hold on to it. Maybe send me an email or WhatsApp message later on, and I'll try to respond whenever I'm free, and as soon as possible, definitely. Haris Lakhani, the limit when a person has to register for sales tax, not part of today's session. It's on income tax return filing. Asmatullah Mehman, how I will show proof if I have source of income from agriculture? Well, you do get that receipt for Malia, right? That's your evidence. Asif Tahir, who filed return on this tax year when he will be considered as filer? What? Who filed return on this tax year when he will be considered? Asif, you need to elaborate. I would believe you want to ask that if you file a return for this tax year, would you be considered a filer? Well, yes or no? And no. Yes, you would be a filer when the next annual ATL is issued, which would be like in February, March, depending on how many extensions we get. So if you want to become a filer immediately, you have to file the tax return for the last year as well. I hope that answers your question. Irfan Chaptai, how lease vehicles should be treated in return? Hold on to that. Muhammad Waqas, what is the procedure to register an LLP? Irrelevant. Asif Tahir, okay, that's broken part of the question. Mohammed Zainbert, can you please share the handouts already answered will be shared? Amit, if AOP is not registered from registrar of firm, are they eligible for NTN? Yes, they are still eligible for NTN, but more and more of the tax offices now require you to get the registration certificate as well. Danish Jalil Sheikh. Hello, if there is a joint bank account of two filers, how do we represent that in the will statement? If it is either or survivor or if it is jointly operated. If it is either or survivor, well, either one can show it or they can both split it 50-50. And if it is just jointly operated, split it 50-50. Asmatullah Mehran, how I will show proof if I have source of income already answered. Osman Hamid, but oh yes, you will get slides. Fahad Ali, if a person is registered as salaried individual, how to register him as both salaried plus business individual? Okay, why would you want to do that? One scenario, somebody is working maybe a job and have a side business, so no issue. What you need to do is amend their NTN, and the NTN would already have them listed as a salaried individual. Then you will also add the business onto that. And as you'll see in a while, the return has different sections. So you can actually file a single return for their income from business as well as the salary income. I'll show you that in a while. Syed Ahmed Ghufran Hussain, can you please email a copy? Yes, you will be emailed. Muhammad Saad Bakshi, there is an issue with audio resolved, I guess, or at your end. Haris Lahani, the business which claimed income tax exemption, the criteria of claiming income tax exemption. Well, I would love to answer that. That's an area of my expertise and specialization, but unfortunately, not relevant. Ahmed Omar Jamil. Okay, for all the presentation questions, my friend here will make the announcement once again in the end, and I'll quickly tell you Harun Saab has already shared. We will all be getting the presentation, the slides, etc. within 3 to 5 working days after this. Okay, FTR and NTR income should be discussed. Yes, we'll be discussing that. We are about to discuss the return, and it would be there. Minimum taxation on the goods certificates, 214E. Okay, they would all be covered. Faraz, sorry I joined late, but can you explain what is ATL? Faraz, it's active taxpayer list, and you'll be getting this presentation, and also the recording of this entire session would be available on ACCS channel on YouTube and Vimeo, and also on my personal channel on YouTube. So you can always go back to the recording and consult that. I would love to explain that, but today's session is like very time constrained, and unfortunately I can't do that at the moment. I'll try to do that at the end of the session if we have time. Okay, scope of tax in Pakistan. Hassan, that's a massive question. Okay. Which cases person can mandatory register by FBR? Not in today's purview, but I did a session, I think in 2016, in which we covered these details. That is still available on ACCS channel on YouTube, and also if you search my name on YouTube, Umar Zahir Mir, you will get the channel there, and the recordings are still very much there. So you can consult these. Okay, now can you read the questions for me from 4:55 p.m.?
Sure. Here's a question from Mohammed Sufyan. He's saying, I'm a salaried person, received following notice as per Finance Bill 214D removed. Now my notice will be withdrawn or processed further. Thank you. Notice under Section 177 of the Income Tax Ordinance 2001 for tax year 2017. Initial conference. Please refer to the subject cited above.
That's okay. Sufyan, I can tell you that straight away. Basically, this section was inserted for those who filed late tax returns. They were selected automatically for audit. So in the last budget, FBR recommended and deleted the clause, which led to the closing of these cases. However, in the amended income tax ordinance, the clause is said to have been reinserted. So now, as per my understanding and my meetings with some of the FBR officials, they are planning to reinitiate the proceedings. So I guess we'll have to wait and see for a few weeks how things settle. The understanding was that these cases would close, but it appears now that it would probably not be the case unless this specific clause is deleted from the income tax ordinance. Next. For those of you who are worrying what we are talking about, do not worry. It's not very directly related to the session. This was more of an advanced question. Next.
Adnan says, my status is inactive. How to activate it?
By filing your income tax return.
There is a question from Farhan Zaka. He says, what is the reference number? Is it the same as NTN?
Yes, basically 2-3 years ago, the law was passed by the parliament that every CNIC would be made NTN. FBR unfortunately does not have that level of capacity, it seems, at the moment. So what they are doing is all the new registrants, they are being registered with their CNIC referred to as the reference number. For companies, it's the company's incorporation number. So while the internal system is still generating NTN, but these numbers, the CNIC number and the company's incorporation number or the firm's registration number are being used as reference number in order to comply with that law passed by the parliament. Next.
Amit Kumar is asking, person is active in NTN inquiry, but name is not present in ATM. What does this mean?
Not possible. it means you are doing something wrong, because these databases are linked. So if the person is appearing active in NTN inquiry, the NTN inquiry is pulling its data from the ATM. It's the same inherent database. So there can't be a difference. You can either share specific details and I can check for you. If it is a case, then you should contact FBR that they have some error in their database. Next.
Mohammed Bokas is asking, online NTN verification tab is different from ATL tab. Their purpose and use is not the same. Online NTN is not joined.
Well, online NTN STRN inquiry is joint in the sense that if you enter a person detail and they are also registered for sales tax, in that one window you are able to see whether they are active for income tax and whether they are active for sales tax. In many instances, a business you are dealing with may be active for income tax purposes, but blacklisted or not active for sales tax purposes. So that's a one window solution. The other way is you separately check their income tax or sales tax, as I've shown you before.
Mohammed Mohsin Bhatti is asking, can you provide presentation as a handout?
Yes,
yes, you'll get the handouts and relevant presentation in next 3 to 5 working days. Mohammed Bilal Said is asking, kindly tell the difference between advanced tax and withholding tax.
Well, advance tax is that which you are paying in advance on your income or your turnover, and withholding taxes which you are withholding from the payments you are making. It may not be your tax, it's the tax that you are deducting for someone else from their income. You are making a payment to your contractor, you are deducting the withholding tax. It's not the tax on your income, it's the tax on their income which you are deducting as a withholding agent for the FBR. I hope that makes the difference clear. Next.
There is another question from Raheel Babar. He's asking, what will be the implication for a salaried person if he or she receives a sum of, say, 5 lakh annually aside from his annual salary of 6 lakh in his salary account from the company? If the additional 5 lakh were given to the employee for operating expenses and the staff gave the expense detail of full advance, will a certificate from the company's side claiming the 5 lakh is not taxable income of employee since they were.
I got your question. Well, what you need to do is you need to get a certificate from the company that these 500,000 were given for the operating expenses, and you have given the details or the balance, if that is applicable, is given back to the company and retain that. And in your return, you make the appropriate adjustment and submit that with the return, or later on, if there is an audit call, you should have that certificate to prove your case. So that should be fine. Next.
There is again a question from Bilal Said asking, as we have Act 2017 now, so how to know what to follow Act 2017 or Ordinance 2001?
Oh, that was Companies Act 2017 with regard to SCCP. So if you are talking about the corporate governance affair, creating a company, filing their returns, that's a different area. If we are just talking about income tax, filing the returns and all, then obviously income tax ordinance 2001. Next.
Mohammed Ayaz bin Nisar is asking, what are the basic benefits of filing tax?
A lot, Ayaz, practically on almost every major thing, you get lower tax rates, which are also adjustable. Plus, you have complied with your legal liability, and in worst cases, you would not be facing a jail term. Sufficient of a benefit? Yeah. Next.
Mohammed Ali Bakar is asking a question for retired government individuals. Is it mandatory to submit online return?
If you do have an NTN, you have to file a return, even if it is a nil return. If you are a retired person, you don't have any income, you are not getting any taxable income, you can apply to FBR for deregistration. But as long as you have a valid operational NTN, you have to file a tax return, even if it is for non-taxable. Okay. Next.
Rumil Janjua or Romel Janjua, please forgive me for the pronunciation.
I think it's Romeo.
Rumil Janjua is asking, in my case, I'm an ACCA affiliate. I just started articles in an audit firm. Can I reclaim my taxes that I have paid in paying ACCA fees by filing my return? In my case, I'm an ACCA affiliate. The same question.
Yes. Next.
Faraz Ahmed is asking, how can we avail NTN for private limited company?
Already explained. Next.
Mohammed Saad Bakshi is asking, what are the tips for person who are registering for the first time?
Already shared. Next.
Ayaz bin Nisar is asking.
Already shared. Next.
Mohammed Shizad is asking limit of income for compulsory IT return.
Income tax return.
Income tax return.
Well, although the compulsory is the taxable limit having more than 4 lakh income, but why would you not want to register? I mean, you have so many benefits. You would say, if nothing else, even if you don't have a property, no bike, nothing, you don't want to buy anything, you would at least have a bank account, right? So why wouldn't you want to avail that benefit? So I would say everybody should consider registering for income tax. Registering does not mean you have to even pay the tax if that's the case. I mean, if you have below taxable limit income, then you can simply file a BTL income tax return. If you have zero income, you can file a nil return. You become a filer just by filing the return. You do not actually have to pay tax to be a filer. That's a very vital concept, a difference. So while the taxable limit is more than 400,000 of the taxable income, or in case of business, if I recall correctly, 300,000 of profit, but I would suggest that even if you have below taxable limit income, you should become registered so that you can just file your return and avail the benefits of being a filer. Next.
Mohammed Ayaz is asking, is it compulsory to file tax return?
Well, it is compulsory for anyone having a taxable income or having a certain amount of property in their name or car or etc. Or if they have an NTN or if they filed a return in the last 3 years, etc. Next.
Ahmed Umar is asking, what about revising a return which was previously filed as nil by a lawyer unknowingly?
You can revise that. There are time limits within which you can do it without any permission, or after which you have to take a permission from the commission.
Faiza is asking, do these rules apply for doctors as well if they are going to register for the very first time?
Of course.
Farhan Zaka is asking, what about FTN holders? Are they required to be registered?
Okay, for those who do not know, FTN holders are basically the federal tax number. These are government departments they are referring to. Are they required to be registered? They are already registered. That's why they have the tax number. It's just the federal tax number because they belong to the government machinery, the federal government departments. Next.
Sohail Ashraf is asking, does a withholding agent can give tax adjustment under section 149 to an employee of advance tax paid under section 236?
Next.
I guess the same question has been answered before. Muhammad Ali Bakar is asking, is there any difference between non-filer and inactive?
If you are talking about what we saw on the screen, yeah. Non-filer and inactive basically are interchangeably used terms there. Next.
Arman Arif is asking, sir, I am an employee and registered this year for Indian by using IRIS on FBR, but nothing showing on the portal once I log in. What should I do next?
You file the return for this year, no? So you will become a filer in February, March. I already explained this. When this year's deadline would end and the new ATL for this tax year, 2018, would release, you'll be in that. If you want to become a filer immediately, you need to file the tax return for last tax year, whose ATL is running at the moment, and that is being updated. Listen very carefully, every month. The last year's ATL is currently being updated every week. But from 2018 tax year's ATL, which would likely come in early part of next year, it would not be updated every week. It would just be updated once and stay the same for the entire tax year, the income tax return. Next.
Ahmed Omar is asking, property to be showed on market value or on the value used for taxation by LD or a competent government authority?
Well, because we have this law in income tax ordinance where FBR's fair values are being used, so those are the values on which you have to declare your property in the bill statement reconciliation.
Abdul Rahman is asking a question. SRO stating filing is mandatory for all individuals. Does that individual have a legal definition?
Online filing, not just filing, which means individuals have to file their income tax returns online.
Arman is again asking.
Hang on. And yeah, the individual has a definition which is within the income tax ordinance. And Arman has asked, I'm an employee and registered this. It was a repeat. Next, please.
Arman is again asking that do I need to submit a document such as payslips to get my NTA number
Yes, you need to if you are registered for the first time.
Haris Lakhani is asking a question, can sole proprietor obtain income tax exemption?
Not relevant, but just generically it depends on which area you are going for, whether you need the exemption under section 153, you are talking about that, or you need a different exemption. So it really depends on which area you are talking about. But generally exemptions are easier for AOP, like non-profit, etc., or companies. But if you fulfill all the criteria and there's a particular area you want to claim the exemption for, why not? Next.
What should be done now in order to get tax complaint considering oneself a wholesaler? Asked by Mubashir Bukhari.
What should be done now in order to get tax complaint?
Yes, tax complaint.
I think he means tax compliant.
Yes.
Okay. Well, to become tax compliant, if you are not registered, please register for NTN. If sales tax is applicable, please register for sales tax. Start filing your returns and you'll become tax compliant. If you were already registered and you defaulted on filing your returns, just file those tax returns. And if there is any tax liability to be deposited, please deposit that and you'll become compliant. Next.
Mohsin is asking, can you please explain how should I calculate the tax on capital gain? For example,
I can, but not relevant right now, Mohsin. We have a lot of questions. I would love to, but send me this later on. I'll answer that. I'll try to cover that in the income tax return if we get time. Next.
Ifan Ahmed is asking, please tell me if person has job in institute on part-time faculty, what will be the tax rate for him? As I'm charging him on services and charging 17.5%, is it right or wrong?
Well, you are charging him possibly for the sales tax, which is under the purview of PRA, Punjab Revenue Authority. We are currently discussing the income tax. So you have to possibly deduct income tax depending on his status with you. If you are considering him a part-time employee, then the deduction would be at the rates applicable under section 149. If he is on a contract, then depending on his status, whether he is incorporated or as an individual or AOP, you will deduct the relevant applicable rates from the payments. What you are referring to as the deduction is not the income tax, that's the sales tax rate. Next.
Uzair is asking, please clarify what is the requirement for filing tax returns for overseas Pakistan.
Already done. Next.
Abdul Rahman is asking, is there a process to get deregistered for sales tax if business is not?
Yes, there is. Next.
Usman Ahmed is asking, what is 182 notice to impose penalty under section 182 for failure for this return?
182 notice is the show cause, which asks you to show cause why you should not be imposed a penalty under section 182 1A for not filing your returns within the due time period. Or there are other areas for failing to furnish the return within time for section 114. What to do if you have received this? Consult a very good tax consultant. Yeah. Next.
Muhammad Ali is asking, is it possible to adjust the loss somewhere in the return?
Yes.
Faraz is asking, please explain the income refund procedure and the standard time for it.
Irrelevant. And by the way, for us, it's a long topic. So I see you guys are getting a lot of curious. So maybe in the end, suggest and we'll try organizing a different session. Move on, please.
Muhammad Adnan is asking, if my income is not a taxable slab, do I need to get registered?
You would not be required to register, but as I've explained numerous times, it is in your interest to get registered. Next.
Azad Hussain is asking, freelancer income is taxable or tax-free in Pakistan?
Depends on the income bracket. Now there are tax rates that are applicable to them, even if you are providing these services online.
Mohammed Ahmed Aziz is asking, when registering, what residential documents one should submit if living with parents? No rent agreement exists, understandably, and property is in the name of the parent.
Well, I'm assuming you are a salaried person. If you are a salaried person, then you'll simply enclose CNIC of your dad or mom, whoever name is on the property paper, and copy of the property deed. That's it. And a letter from them that you are their kid, obviously, and allowed to live with them. If you want to be on the safer side, otherwise, no need for that.
Mansoor Rahman is asking, once income tax return is filed, in case of salaried person, can this be revised or not?
Within 60 days, yes. After 60 days, yes, with the permission of commissioner. Next.
What is the tax? Raheel Babar is offline. Mohammed Najib is asking, one of my friend has transactions of 3 million in bank accounts as non-filer. Now he wants to file his return. Is there any implications he might face?
I would suggest get in touch with any good consultant. You can contact our firm too. They should work out his money trail, because this would have implication in terms of section 111 subsection 4. So it's not just filing, it's about the trail and establishing the white money as well. So his return would need to be filed very carefully, because he has been doing these transactions over the year, but he was not a filer. So there is a high chance that maybe in future he cannot be asked, even if he registers or even if he doesn't register, he can be asked about the money trail and the source. So that need to be worked out and proper accounts created for it. That's something I would suggest you to consider. Next.
Saeed Muhammad Ali is asking, what is meant by order of self-assessment and any possible implications of this on being filed?
Order of self-assessment means that you need to file your income tax return, and the implications are that if you file that, you become a filer.
Sher Afghan Zaid is asking, do we have to submit our assets detail outside Pakistan while filing
Yes,
return?
yes, you have to if you're filing a return. However, you are not required to pay any taxes on them.
And also of our immediate family?
Well, there's a section where now you have to disclose the assets of any dependent, especially like your spouses and kids.
Mubashir Bukhari is asking, after logging into IRIS using login details, I'm unable to select my details for purpose of filing tax declaration. What could be going wrong?
Select my details. There shouldn't be an issue. It depends on what error you are getting. Is it a database error, or is it a workflow violation rule? What is it telling you? So this is a generic question, and the actual answer would depend on what is the error message that you are getting. Share that, and I'd be able to help you. Next.
Gibran Ilahi is asking a question. If my father is a non-resident and I borrowed money from him to buy a car, how should I account it?
Well, if your father is non-resident, the money should have come through a bank account. You should have a certificate of that, so you can show that as a gift or a foreign remittance, which is not taxable, and then you have the money trail, file your return, no issues.
Sayyid Muhammad Ali Daib is asking, if a filer makes an error while filing a tax return, for example, reconciliation error in wealth statement, what is the appropriate way?
The appropriate way is that you have the draft saved before submitting, recheck it and update it. If for some reason you haven't rechecked or didn't find the error and have submitted it, as I previously told you, within 60 days, you can update that without an issue, or even after 60 days with commissioner's permission. Next.
Faisal Khan is asking, does individual have to show more than one employment sources from where?
By the law, yes, all the sources they are receiving their income from. Next.
Ijazullah is asking, we have to give petty cash to our admin department for various official petty expenses. There was debate going on that we should give them open check and not a cross check in name of admin employee, as then he may be questioned by FBR as to having extra funds from our organization.
Yes, so it depends on your business structure. If you are a company, then it is required by law that any expenses which go above 50K needs to be in terms of signed checks, cross checks. Otherwise, the expense might not be allowable. So you need to provide more details about your company's structure before I can give you an advice on that. Next.
Haris Lakhani is asking, difference between final tax and adjustable income tax.
Final tax is the full and final discharge of liability. It's paid on certain items, certain categorizations. For example, you pay a certain amount of tax on imports, and that is the full and final discharge of liability, which means you do not have to pay any additional tax. Adjustable tax means, okay, you have paid this tax at the end of the year. You will file your return, do the calculation. If you have any additional tax to pay, you'll pay that to the treasury. If some additional tax has already been paid and is refundable, at least in theory, the treasury will pay you that back. Next.
Tariq Khan is asking, how can we value our inherited land in our wealth statement?
Well, inherited land can be valued at the value that you would get, the market value or the FBR value at the time when you inherited it. Since it's a gift, normally the values are quite low. Next.
Arun Bhatti is asking, I fall under third slab in income tax slab rate. Is it okay if I file return voluntarily under 114, or I have to file return under income deriving 50% more than the salary?
Well, you can file under 1141. I don't know why you mentioned 50% more than salary, because you haven't mentioned any other sources of income. So I have to assume that your 100% income source is your salary. And in that case, you have to file the return under 1141. Next.
Tariq Khan is asking a question. What if our employer has deducted tax and not willing to provide deduction certificate? What is the further procedure for an applicant?
Oh, they are legally required to provide you. They can't say no. Because if they are not providing you the certificate, that means they are, dodgy. Because the process is they are deducting the tax, your tax, and they are supposed to submit that to Treasury. And then they issue you the certificate that, yes, we deducted this tax and submit it to the Treasury. And they are required by law to issue you this certificate. Why would they not want to issue you that? Connect the dots. Now, this would be an ethical issue, and ACC has very strict standards on that. So I would suggest you to follow the ACC's code of ethics in this case. Next.
Ahmed Khan is asking a question. If someone has used an individual's ID to register their business without authorization, that is fraudulently, and the complaint has been filed at the RTO, what are the victim's rights? Will he be liable to tax bills?
Well, he would first need to prove that it was a fraud. This would possibly be an FIA inquiry. A police case would need to be registered, and a long legal battle need to be filed. But how can someone do that? I mean, there used to be these instances when it was manual system. Now, if you are an individual, the person need to have all your details, your CNIC copy, your business address, your utility bill. How did they get all that? And if they did, then something was seriously wrong with you. Anyway, if they still got that and this fraud did happen, then you'll have to take the legal channel and prove that this was a fraud without your consent. Next.
Mubashir Hussain is asking, agriculture land rent income tax apply or not?
Well, there's no tax on agricultural income tax. Federal income tax. That's it. Or we have any more?
We have a few more questions as well.
I just want to finish these questions, and then we'll take a very quick 5 to 7 minutes break for the Maghrib prayer, and then we'll come back and finish off the last session.
Mubashir Bukhari is asking question, how to get tax consultancy from your side?
Okay. Well, you'll have my contact details in the end, so feel free to get in touch. It would be my pleasure.
Mubashir Hussain is asking, rate of agricultural land income tax per acre, relatives, SROs, if any, tell me.
There's no income tax on agricultural income, no federal income tax. The Malia and other taxes are taken by the provincial government, and they are not the subject of today's session. So with regard to this income tax return that you have to file, the federal income taxes, there are no applicable income tax on the agricultural income per se. Next.
Bushra Jamil is asking difference between tax credit and tax rebate.
A very good question, Bushra. We will be covering that in the return, but very briefly, tax rebate is like a discount that you are getting, and tax credit is like against the taxable income or the tax liability. For example, you made a charitable donation to an authorized entity that is listed within the income tax ordinance. So now that amount that you have paid there, you can get a tax credit against that amount. Anyway, I'll delve on this concept more in the return section. Next.
Melissa Jean Fernandez is asking, I got married this year. How do we record the gift money we received?
Well, Melissa, first of all, congratulations. And you'll simply list that money in your wealth statement. And in your income tax return, you'll list it as the gift. There are no taxes on that. And once you list that in your wealth statement, that would become part of your white money as well. Next.
The query from Zishan is, can tax mobile balances be adjusted during the year against salary tax? Irfan is asking question, I'm submitting return if any brother for the first time, of my brother for the first time, in order to become on ATL, I should submit return for the year ended 30th June 2018 and 17, both are just 1 year. Secondly, when I'm selecting period 2017 to file the return, the slabs on the side put salaries under 149 is not coming.
Well, for the second query, send an email to FBR telling that you are facing this issue. It could be most likely a browser issue. FBR's website runs best with Internet Explorer 7 or above. If you are using another browser like Google Chrome or Firefox, that might be giving you issues, one thing. For the first one, if you want your brother to become filer immediately, then yes, you should file 17, 18 both. Next.
Tariq Khan is asking a question, can I claim an income tax withheld on PTCL bills, which is on the name of my cousin or
Yes,
father?
as long as they are not claiming it.
Haris Lakhani is asking, can an Exhibit C be amended after we submit it?
You can revise that.
Usman Yusuf is asking, kindly differentiate between suppliers and services.
Okay, supplies are like goods and services are just purely services.
Fawad Roza is asking, please guide how a joint account is treated in husband-wife tax returns individually.
Already told you either one of the two can claim that or split that equally. It depends on the terms of the account. For example, whether it's a joint account or it's like one or both. So how the account is maintained. Normally the accounts are joint account, so they are split 50-50. Also, you have the option that one of the two spouses can take the entire amount on their account if there are tax benefits to it. I hope that helps. Next.
Farhan Zaka is asking, how can we incorporate the asset in wealth statement not recorded earlier?
Well, it would depend, Farhan, because as I've told in response to another query, 1114 comes into play here, and this is a very sensitive issue. Money trail needs to be seen. So it would depend on your specific case, what could be the best scenario to do that.
Mansoor Rahman is asking a question, if we are paying zakat in cash and there is no certificate to prove this, can the zakat amount be deductible expense?
Yeah.
So we are done with the question for
Fantastic. We have answered all the questions. Great achievement. Okay, guys, let's have a quick 8 minutes break. So you can say your prayers and come back. It's 5:48 in my clock here, and I'll see you all in at 5:56. So all the best. Thank you. Hello, assalamu alaikum, and welcome back. Apologies for the slight delay. We just had a bit of discussion about this session and all, and your requirement for the next session, maybe another one on this topic, hence took slightly longer. Apologies for that. Let's go into the thick of things. Now we'll be talking about the filing of income tax returns by an employee or salaried individual, and the tax charge for a business, filing of return by a business, AOP, and filing of returns by a company. And then we'll talk about the filing of the revised returns. Now, what happened with FBR is that previously there used to be paper returns, which were separate for individual and separate for businesses. And it was slightly cumbersome, especially if an individual had a business. So there were issues in terms of duplication and standardization. With IRIS, one good thing that FBR did was that your current income tax return that is available online cover almost all these areas. So an individual now has the section for salaried income, property income, other income, business income, etc., which I'll show you in a bit. So it becomes a lot easier for businesses and for individuals who are like partner in a business to file one singular return for their own selves. And also the company return is pretty much on the same pattern. The tax rates are incorporated within the IRS, so you just need to have a very good understanding of the law and need to know where to put which item and all, and how to claim the certain exemptions and all. But the basic legwork or the hard labor of calculations and all that is done for you by the system. So let's have a look how this actually works. And because we have limited time and the client data was confidential, I got in the next best thing, the notification by FBR dated 17 August 2018, which has the entire return for you. So what happens and how this thing actually begins is you go in the same website, fbr.gov.pk, you click on IRIS, you enter your taxpayer details, whether you're a company or an individual, depending on that. You enter the password and you log in, and then you are in. Once you are in, you click on the drop-down menu and click on filing the return under 1141. If you are an individual or a business, that is filing a tax return under normal tax regime. However, if you are a business or even if you are a sole proprietor, AOP or company, which only deals in final tax. Maybe you are just an importer or an exporter. So you'll file a return under 1154, which is an income tax return for final tax declaration. It's a simpler return and it shows the taxes you have paid, the relevant amount, and that's it. It's the full discharge of liability. But as you can envision, that's applicable in extremely small number of cases. So in majority of cases, I would go to the extent to say maybe even 90% or more cases, you have to file a return under 1141. So that's the return under 1141. As I told you, you can see here, you'll have this description that it's a 114 subsection 1, return of income filed voluntarily for complete year. Here, if you have more than one people registered with this address, how can that be? With the CNIC, for example, you have registered an authorized person, a tax consultant. So their name would also be appearing, but they are an authorized connection. You are not filing their return. So in the name, you have to select the name of the person or the business that you are filing the return for. Then in the period, you'll select the tax year that your return is for. For example, we are filing for the current tax year and we have selected tax year 2018. Now the first tab is the data tab. As you can see here, and just like I've told you, you have this pattern available, which is quite standardized now. So even for an individual, you will have the employment income, where if you click on it, you'll have the salary income and all the details, then the income from property, business, and in case of business, the capital assets income from other sources, foreign source agricultural income, which are tax exempt, tax chargeable payments, and then you have all the details of taxation here. We'll go through all these sections one by one, so you have a good understanding how this works. So all these white areas are where you can fill in the numbers, and all these light blue areas are automatically calculated for you. So let's begin with the employment income, salary income. You also have this option to import previous return, last year returns figures would come, and then you can simply amend that if that's easier for you. This is, however, more helpful in the wealth statement where you can get the figures from last year and simply amend that. Not so helpful in income tax returns, especially if you are continuously filing the returns. So income from salary would be calculated automatically. This would total from all these columns and rows that are provided to you. So first of all, you have to enter the pay, wages or other remuneration, including any areas of salary you have received. You have to enter the total amount and the amount exempt from tax or subject to fixed and or final tax. Okay. So like, for example, your salary is just 400,000 per annum, unfortunate enough. But don't worry, your income will increase then. So you'll just write 400,000, that is exempt or subject to final income tax if it's a bit more. Then you'll enter the allowances if you are getting any allowances. I have told you before that any allowances would be considered part of the salaried income. So if you have flying or submarine allowance, you'll enter that. You have any expenditure reimbursed to you incurred during the course of the business, etc. They would be your income if they were your personal expenses, not necessary for the business of your employer. For example, you travel to your job and your travel fare is reimbursed by your employer at the end of the month, 10,000 or something. So that would be part of your income. However, if you had to register your employer's company and that costed you 50,000, which you paid from your own pocket to speed up the work, and then the employer reimbursed you 50,000, that would not come here. That is not part of your salary. So the concept is, if the expense relates to you and was reimbursed, that is basically a way of facilitating you and rerouting your salary. So in kind, it is your salary, one of the concepts you would have studied in your ACC studies. However, if the expense was incurred in the course of the business of the employer, not for your personal benefit, then that's not part of your salary. I hope that helps. Value of any perquisites, including transport, monetization for civil servants, profit and layoff, or in addition to pay, wages, other remuneration, any termination benefits. So you'll enter all these figures here, and the end result would be IRS would do the totals for you, and you'll have the total income from salary. So far, so good. Let's click on the next tab, property. So you are a very rich employee wherever you have been working, but you also had some property, maybe you inherited or something, and you have rented that. You are also getting income from that. So how would you do? How would you account for it now? Very simple. Again, same concept here, only the white areas are the one you have to fill. You'll enter the rent received or receivable, 1/10 of the amount not adjustable against rent if you had any security deposits. Yeah, if there was any forfeited security deposit under a contract for the sale of property, and any deductions against the rent. Now, in the income tax ordinance, there have been some changes, just so you are aware. If you are a company, you can claim certain deductions and your tax liability would be reduced. If you are an individual, you can still claim deductions, but unfortunately, your tax deductions would not be reduced. Your tax liability would be same. So you'll enter all these figures, and IRS would automatically calculate the total receipt from the property and the net income or loss from the property. So if you are an individual, these both figures are supposed to, although they are supposed to be different, but the tax would be calculated on the income only. However, what is there to say that you can't do a business? If you are an individual, you are working, you have a salaried income, who's saying you can't have a business on the side? Yes, you can. There is no legal prohibition under the Constitution. Therefore, the income tax return accounts for that too. So how do we work with that? First item is manufacturing or trading in items. So if you're in a business of manufacturing something or trading, this is your area. Again, same concept, blue areas, automatic calculation, white areas you have to fill. So you'll start with gross revenue, excluding any sales tax, federal excise duty, If any of that amount is exempt due to any certain areas or subject to final tax, maybe you were exporting, so there's a final tax on that. So you'll enter that amount in this column as well. Okay. Next, any selling expenses, freight, outward brokerage commission, you'll enter cost of sales or cost of services would be automatically calculated. You'll begin by entering any opening stock purchases. It's the same thing you have studied in your ACC studies. That's why accountants find it normally easier to get on the tax, you know, on the tax carrier. And plus the tax that you might have studied in your ACC studies, the UK tax system is inherently not entirely same. There are a bit of differences, but the fundamental structure is quite similar. So if you have a good grasp of that, this should be easier to understand. So you'll start by entering the opening stock, the net purchases, the salaries, wages, fuel, power, gas, tools and spares, repair, maintenance, other direct expenses, amortization, depreciation, closing stock. Click on the calculate button. Guess what? It will automatically compute the figure, the total income loss, the net revenue, and the cost of sales. So far, so good. What if I had other revenues? What would I do then? Well, you'll enter what could be the other revenues. Fee for technical professional services, very related to you. Accounting gain on sale of intangibles. Any accounting gain on sale of tangible assets. Others, share in untaxed income of association of person. Share in taxed income. You'll enter the figure, again calculate. The totals would be calculated for you by IRS. Next up, management, admin, selling, and financial expenses. Again, you'll list all the expenses. If any of them fall under the final fixed tax regime, thank you, or are exempt, you'll enter them in this figure. Again, calculate, and guess what? Using this and the previous sections, it would compute your net accounting profit or loss. Then, if you have any specific inadmissible deductions, you have to enter them here. For example, if you had a provision for doubtful debt under section 29, subsection 2 of income tax ordinance, that's not allowable, so that would be added back. If you have any provision for obsolete stock, for diminution in value of investment, etc., etc. So it should be pretty easier because all the sections are listed here and the name of the expenditure are here. So at least you can get a beginner's level of understanding. We had previously covered in 2016 the entire income tax ordinance. And again, the recordings are available on ACC's channel on YouTube and Vimeo, also on my personal channel on YouTube. So you can have a look on that. And I was discussing with Harun, we might do a revised series on income tax ordinance as it's relevant. You can also send in your suggestion. If that's something that interests you, then obviously we would be more inclined for holding such sessions. Anyway, you enter all these inadmissible deductions and the IRS would automatically adjust that for you. And next up, we'll have any other adjustments. For example, if you have unadjusted losses going back last 6 years, you can claim that. If you have income or loss from business before adjustment of admissible depreciations, again, enter these figure and calculate. IRS would automatically adjust that in your business tax liability. And then last but not the least, you have to give the business balance sheet. They call it business asset equity liabilities, but we know what this is. We have studied several times in our ACC studies. It's the basic pro forma of a balance sheet. So you give all the details of your business assets, you give the details of long-term borrowings, trade creditors, other liabilities, and IRS calculates your equity as the balancing figure. So far so good. I've gone through my employment income, property income, business income. What about this capital assets thing? What is that? Did you have any gain loss for this from the sale of any capital asset? If yes, enter here. You'll get the benefit for that or end up paying additional tax depending on what it was. So if you have income from other sources such as royalty, profit on debt, bonus shares, ground rent, rent from sublease of a building, annuity or pension which is not taxable, you enter that here. Then if you have any foreign source or agriculture income, many people were asking where to disclose that in the income tax return. Sorry, you'll enter that here. Okay, and obviously you'll enter the same figure here because it's exempt. It is not subject to final tax, it's exempt. Hang on, sorry, agricultural income is exempt. Foreign source income is not exempt, that would be subject to tax, but foreign remittance is exempt. So when you have the foreign source income, you'll enter the income here. And if the foreign source income is structured in a way that it's subject to final tax, you'll enter that here. For the agricultural income, you'll enter the amount here and you'll enter the amount, same amount here because it's exempt. And any agricultural income tax that you have already paid, maybe to a provincial authority or something, you'll enter that. Then you have these deductible allowances. I have already told you that you can have a tax credit against the card that you have deducted. You get the rebate. So if you paid any zakat, you will enter here. But hang on, it's only for zakat that has been paid to an authorized institution, and you have the evidence for that. So if you have given the zakat to Mohalle ki Masjid or to maybe a neighbor who was in need, unfortunately for tax purposes, that's not allowable. If you have made any contributions to worker welfare fund under section 60A, again to an authorized worker welfare fund. If your company has a worker welfare fund which is not registered or authorized and you are making contributions there, unfortunately, can't claim here. Any charitable donation under clause 61 part 1 of second schedule against two authorized institutions come here. Profit on that under section 60C would come here, and educational expenses under section 60D would come here. Somebody was asking me, can we claim rebate for the educational expenses of ACC and tax rebates? Yes, that's the section where you'll enter the educational expenses. Then if you have any income tax under section 99A of 19th schedule, that is not normally the case, skip that. Okay, then we have seen the deductible allowances and tax chargeable. Now we are about to talk for with regard to the tax reductions. So tax reductions are there for who? Senior citizen. It's automatically calculated. Now your question should be, all the fields of the senior citizens and disabled taxpayer are blank. How would FBR know? How would I get the rebate? Any hints? Any guesses?
Automatic.
How?
They would know the age because they have.
Very good. You have the CNIC number there, right? That is your registration number. So the NADA details pull out from that database and it automatically enters here if you are a senior citizen or disabled, if you are registered as such in the NADA. If you are a full-time teacher or researcher, you can enter the amount here that you are earning and you'll get a tax reduction for that. So basically there are tax reductions for senior taxpayer, disabled taxpayer, and full-time researcher or teacher. Next are tax credits. So for any charitable donations under section 61, investment in shares, life insurance premium under section 62, for health insurance under 62A, approved pension funds under section 63, etc., you'll get the tax credit. You need to enter the details there and again calculate. And next, for adjustable taxes. Now this is important, pay attention. The taxes have been divided into three regimes. Adjustable taxes are those which you are paying, and at the end of the year, a computation is done whether you owe government something or you are owed something from the government, and accordingly you proceed. Then we have final, fixed, minimum, average, relevant, reduced rate. The concept of minimum tax is that on some areas, when you are making a transaction, you pay a tax which is minimum, like section 153 subsection 1B, payment on contracts. When you are given a payment by your customer, they deduct a withholding tax. That is a minimum tax. You have paid that, that's the minimum. Okay. Now, at the end of the year, when all your other incomes are computed, if there is any additional liability, you'll have to pay on top of that. But that's the minimum tax that's gone. You can't get that back, but you might have to pay on top of that. Then there's the concept of final tax, like I've given you the example of import. If you have paid that tax, that's it. full and final discharge of liability. So, Sir Umar, if I paid final tax, why I'm filing a return for 114 subsection 1? Why not 115 subsection 4? Because you have other taxes as well. If you only had final tax, you would go for that return. But because you had other items, normal tax, minimum tax as well, you had to file this return. So, starting with adjustable taxes, if you had any imports under the adjustable taxes regime, or this taxes deducted on salary, which good news for most of you is adjustable, or payment for goods services to a non-resident, or payment under 153(1)(a), etc. You'll enter all these amounts here of the tax collected. The receipt value would automatically be computed from the data you provided elsewhere. Now, next, after you have done this, if you have any taxes which fall under the final or minimum tax regime, all these sections are given here, all the rates are given here. You'll enter the receipt value and the tax collected amount here, and again click on calculate, and IRS would do the rest of the computation for you. So for example, some imports under section 148 might be for final tax regime. It depends on what you are importing. Some items could be under adjustable tax regime. So now that knowledge would be crucial, and that knowledge you can't get from IRS. For that, you need to have a good understanding of income tax ordinance and rules, and then you are able to put these figures in the relevant areas. But otherwise, you enter the figures here, and the IRS will do the computation for you. And next up, the computation. This is the last sheet of the income tax return. So what happens here is you click on the compute button, and from your data provided in all the other sections of income tax return, IRS compute your final tax liability. What you need to do in addition is, if you have any amount that you have paid for worker welfare fund, you need to add that here. Then you can claim some additional tax credits as well. And you need to also account for turnover tax. If you are a business, well, there is this concept in income tax ordinance. If you are a business, you have to pay taxes on your profits. But hang on, that's not all. You also have to pay a minimum tax on your turnover. So the profit tax has been calculated there. For turnover, you have to enter how much was your turnover. If any of that amount is susceptible to final tax, and IRS would compute your tax liability accordingly. If any super tax was chargeable, most of you would be aware of super tax that was levied almost 2 years ago. Yeah, and it's higher for the banks than compared to other large taxpayers. You have to enter the amount here. And then if you are claiming any refund from any previous years against this year's liability, you enter that here. But beware, when you enter a refund amount, almost be certain 99.9% FBR would be calling you. Okay, now that is done. Next slides are really simple and straightforward. If you have any non-tangible asset, you have to give your asset register in the amortization tab and depreciation tab and enter the appropriate amounts. And all of you have studied the asset register, so I don't need to delve into more details here. Then minimum tax. If you have imported these items from your details provided, IRS would have computed it. You'll just calculate that and you'll have the details. You have this option to opt out of PTR. How many of you know what PTR is?
FTR, annual tax regime.
PTR is the presumptive tax regime. It basically gives you the option, either you can give an estimate and pay tax accordingly, or opt out of that and pay taxes on the actual amount. So whenever you are referring to it, either go through the income tax ordinance session or talk with your tax consultant, and they'll guide you which one is more in your interest considering your specific circumstances. So considering that, you can opt out if that is the case, and you cannot submit your income tax return unless you have paid the tax liability. So after you have computed all that, you'll save the draft and you'll create your CPR, and pay that at the bank. Once you have paid at the bank, you'll click at this plus button, and then you'll have the CPR details. You'll click that, and that CPR would be attached with this return. Once that is done, then you'll be able to file your income tax return if some tax is payable. If no tax is payable, you don't need to do anything in this section. Next one is attachment. Here you'll click and include the description of the business sector you are operating in, one or more than one. If that is the case, you'll enter that. Then the last tab, verification, you'll click on that. You'll enter your name and CNIC should normally be coming in this section automatically. If not, you can just enter them manually. You'll click on the PIN that was provided to you at the time of registration and which you should keep very safe. It's normally 4 numeric digits. It's basically your digital signature. Your ID and password are used to log into Iris. Your PIN is used to submit your confidential text document. So after you enter the 4-digit PIN, you'll click on verify. It will ask you for confirmation. You'll confirm that, and that's it. You have verified. Now you'll simply click on submit button, and you'll be able to submit. Will you be? Not yet. You'll have to click on the save button and cross it and go back to 1162. Statement of assets, liabilities filed voluntarily if you are an individual. If you are an AOP or company, then you can just file that return, no issue there. So if you are an individual, this is the wealth statement and the reconciliation you have to do. First of all, you'll list all the personal expenses that you have incurred and click on calculate, and Iris will total that. Next up, personal assets and liabilities. Now remember, these are personal. You have already listed your business assets in the business section of income tax return. You do not need to or want to repeat them here. That would just create issues for you later on. So how you do that, you click on the plus symbol here, like if it's an agricultural property, click on the plus and it will give you a drop down box. You'll enter the property details and valuation, and that's it. Your asset would be added. And that you'll do that same for any commercial plots you have, any business capital that you have. Now your business capital should be what you have already disclosed in your income tax return. Don't forget that. Any household effect, cash, non-business cash in hand you have, any liabilities, you'll add that. Then click on calculate and Iris will automatically calculate this. Now last but not the least in any way would be the reconciliation. So this figure would automatically be coming from the previous section where you have given your personal asset liabilities detail. The net assets would be coming from here. Net assets from previous year you'll have to enter manually. Iris would automatically calculate the increase decrease once you click on the calculate. You'll then have to enter as inflows the income subject to normal tax, exempt from tax, subject to fixed or final tax, and any adjustments. All of these details you have provided in 1141, your income tax return. So I suggest make sure you are entering the same figures here. Best way to do that is to do some Excel working before you actually work on these returns. Then this is where you disclose your foreign remittance, and as you can see, there's no tax incidence. It's just a listing of your assets, but it allows it to become white money in your account, or white wealth, or your legitimate wealth. Any inheritance, gift, any gain on disposal of immovable property, any other inflows that you had, then in outflows, any gift that you gave, any loss on disposal, or any other thing. Once you have done that, you should click on calculate, and the inflows and outflows side should come as equal, and unreconciled amount should be 0. You have to keep on doing the reconciliation till the unreconciled amount becomes 0. Then you click on this verification button and you do the same process as we did in the income tax return. So you enter your name and CNIC number, enter your PIN, click on verify PIN button, and then you click on save, and then you submit it, and boom, that's it. Your wealth statement is submitted. Then you go back to your 1141 draft, open it again, and then submit it, and now it would be submitted. if you'll try to submit an individual tax return without filing 116 statement of wealth and reconciliation, it would not allow you to submit your income tax return. So far, so good. Okay. What if you have foreign income and assets? Then you have to file 1161 foreign income and asset statement for resident individual. This you have to file in case you are a resident individual. So again, from the drop-down menu, you'll select 1161, select the tax year, select your name. Then in personal assets liabilities, again, you'll give all the details that you have already given. And in the next section, you'll give the detail of any foreign income that you have. And you'll click on the calculate button, and Iris will do the rest for you. And you'll just enter your details and verify and submit it. This is in response to someone who was asking me whether we have to disclose any foreign income. So yeah, you can see this form is pretty extensive, and it covers pretty much almost all your foreign income. So this is a recent addition actually. This happened after Panama. And we can't make any more comments on that because that's a political topic. Okay, now you have seen the electronic return for salaried individual. The return is basically the same, but I want to answer your questions too. So I'll have to quickly skip through and go on to the return of non-resident Pakistani, and then I'll quickly highlight the areas for company and AOP, so you are in a good standing, and then hopefully we can have a few minutes for the question answers before we sign out. So this is an electronic return for non-resident Pakistani person for tax year 2018. Why would a non-resident Pakistani like to have a tax return? Anyone? Any answers? See if we get any response. You can also answer. Why would a non-resident Pakistani want to file a tax return? Yeah, Bilal, good answer. Not just to purchase car and property, but to get all the benefits of a filer, which includes being able to buy a motor vehicle, not just a car, including bikes, as well as property over the value of 5 million. So the new incumbent government have introduced this simpler one-pager form for non-resident or overseas Pakistanis to file that and become a filer. As you can see, this is much simpler and doesn't have that kind of tax implication because apparently and normally they don't have Pakistan source income. So they just mention all the values and tax deducted in case there were any. If not, they'll simply leave this blank. And you can see these are the things that we saw in our normal 1141 return in the adjustable tax section. So it's pretty much a listing of that. And then once we have completed this, we simply do the verification, verify and submit it. That's it. You also have this copy of the return to do it on your computer. This is in Excel format. Why would you like to do it on the computer in Excel? So that you can correct any mistakes before you submit. And you are able to see the reconciliation you'll be doing for the bill statement. So this is basically the return we have already seen online, and it's given in the Excel format.
Is it a simulation of what would be the tax liability?
Simulation?
Yes.
Yes,
Like
yes. When you'll download it, it would give you the tax liability that Iris would generate. Okay. So this is the return for business individual, and it's pretty much the same, not much difference. Only difference is you don't have salary head here. So you still have the business head, you still have all those workings. So it's pretty standard. The return that we have covered has covered almost everything extensively because we started with salaried individuals. So it had the salary income, it had the property income, it had the business income, it had the capital, the other sources, foreign income, agricultural income, adjustable taxes, fixed final minimum taxes. So we have covered all that. So when you'll be doing the AOP, The laws slightly change. For that, you have to have a good understanding of AOP, how to treat certain items. But with regard to filling the income tax return, you'll be pretty much filling a similar return, SAMS, or if I say that simply, without the salary income add. Next up, and then obviously we have the bill statement because it's an individual. And you also have this instruction manual to fill it. If you feel any confusion, you can always contact. Now, this is the return for AOPs. And as you can see, just like I've told you, exactly the similar format. Slight changes, I'll highlight the major one. In the property income, unlike the individual, the deductions that you'll mention here against rent, up to 20% of total rent are tax allowable. And you do get a tax rebate for that. That's not the case for individuals. And then manufacturing trading is largely the similar pattern. Other revenues are largely similar. Management admin expenses are same. Inadmissible, admissible deductions are same. So adjustments are same. Losses for last 6 years. Business assets equity, the balance sheet thing is the same. Gains, losses for capital assets is the same. Income from any other sources, profit on debt, royalty, bonus shares, etc. Then you have foreign income, agricultural income, same sections, deductible allowances and tax credits, similar. You can see how the returns are similar. That's one of the things I liked about the change they made. The returns were kind of standardized. So even if you were an individual, there was this entire business section which would cover the business that you were running. If you were running that as a sole proprietor, you could do that. If you're running that as an AOP, you'll have to file the return for AOP separately using AOP's own NTN, and this is the form that you'll be using. But the process is similar, the concept is similar. I wish I had more time and I could go through this return individually with you, but as that's not the case, but never mind, as you can see, likely it's similar, so nothing to worry about. Then again, the tax sections, tax chargeable and payments that we have. Next, after the data, we have the amortization, depreciation, minimum tax. So it's pretty much same, exactly what you have seen previously with individuals return. So similar process, you have to enter all these details. If you want to opt out, you'll click that. One difference is if you are filing the return for a company, you'll have to enter the details of the company director. That was not there in the case of individual or the AOP, but this would be there in the case of company. So how would you do that? You'll click on the plus sign, you'll enter the name, you'll enter the CNIC number or NTN number, the percentage of capital and the capital amount. In case of partnership, you'll enter the same for the partners. So basically you'll be giving a detailed listing of the company's directors or partners to the FBR as well. Then in the attribute section, you'll, just like for the individual case, you'll be giving in the case of AOP or company, the business sectors that they are operating in. Then comes the verification section. You'll give them, whose name would you give here? It's not an individual. It's an AOP. Whose name would you give here for verification? Any guesses? Any guesses? Director. Well, Faraz, good try. It would be principal officer in the case of a company, but it would be partner. Yeah, West Verden, any partner. Not just any partner, the partner that you have authorized when you applied for the tax returns, NTN registration, would be given in this tax return. So you'll give their name and CNIC number, enter the PIN, verify, and submit that. Nice and easy, not so difficult, is it? Great, and we have a good 15 minutes to go through your questions as well as the end of the session. So let me quickly handle the area of the revised returns. Under section 114, you can file a revised income tax return. Within 60 days of filing the return, no authorization needed. You can just select 114 subsection 6, and similarly you can revise the bill statement too. However, if you want to revise it after the expiry of 60 days, you need to write to the commissioner and take a written approval. And once you revise, the return format is pretty simple. It's just like this. The section is different. Instead of 1142, it becomes 1146. But the rest of the performer, the format, the process, it's all same. The only difference is that you are possibly amending some figures, or you are maybe adding new figures or deleting previous one. That's it. Previously, you used to need to take commissioner's approval, and that was quite cumbersome. So this is one good thing that has happened over the year, that now you don't necessarily need commissioner's approval in all the cases, only when you have passed 60 days. Tax rate for current tax years and implications, well, that's available online on FBR's website. And then the income tax ordinance. Some ancillary issues, browser issue, I've already mentioned to you. FBR and IRIS works best with Internet Explorer 7 or above. If you are having any issues, you can always contact Pearl helpline 051 111 772 or send them an email, which is available on FBR's website. And if you have any questions now, I am all yours. And as promised, these are my contact details. You have my cell number, my email, my website link, my blog link, my MFB. This is like Facebook. I don't use Facebook, so I use this one. My Twitter handle, my office address. Best way to reach me is either send me an email, or best still send me a WhatsApp message with your introduction and that you attended the session and the query. And inshallah, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I try my best to answer all the queries, but if I do not get back to you, in extreme case within a week, resend me, because I'm like getting like hundreds of emails and messages, and sometime a message just gets buried in that pile. So if you do not get the response within a week, just send me another message. If the query is really, really important, or you want to meet in person, send me an email or give me a call, or send me a text message, and I'll get back to you. So now, all yours. Shoot up the questions, please.
So we are getting started with the question answer session.
Yep.
First question from Mohammed Bukar says, should we declare marriage, gift, gold, furniture, etc. at market value or zero value?
Well, if it's a gift, you can declare it at the value you deem appropriate. As per the law, you should declare it at the appropriate market value. However, there is also a concept in the law which allows you to declare it at the purchase price. So now, when you have a gift, you don't really have a purchase price, or if you purchased it like 10 years ago, but you did not declare it, you can still declare it at that 10 years old purchase price. If you have gotten it as a gift and you want to go by the book, you should ideally declare it at the market value. There is no tax incidence, and it would allow you to have more white money and more legitimate wealth should you require to have some assets, maybe a property purchased in future, etc. So from tax planning perspective, that's a good thing to do. Any other?
Nadeem Guldar is asking a question, is there any cushion available for the expenses incurred on repair and maintenance as an allowable deduction against the rental income?
Yes, if you are a company. If you are an individual, unfortunately, not anymore.
Nusha is asking, if we do not have any income apart from tax return showing zero tax, what other documents should be filled?
Should we fill?
Yeah.
Nothing. You just need to file this return. And if you are selected for audit, then they'll ask you the supporting evidence.
And an interesting question from Tariq Khan. What about ACC annual subscription? Can we claim those as a deductible allowances?
You can claim that in your expenses in the wealth statement. It's not a deductible allowance per se, but it helps you in the reconciliation showing that was an expense incurred out of your income and why your assets decreased by that amount, whatever that is that you're paying. Maybe a reduced subscription, it would be £54, so that would be at the current rate roughly like 9,000 something. Or if you are paying the full subscription, whatever amount that may be.
Mohammed Adnan is asking a question, option of PTR can be used for the previous year?
No, for the current year.
Bilal, I'm a self-employed, freelancing or contractual work is accounted under business income. Also, if income is coming from abroad, is it taxable?
Yes, the income coming from abroad would be taxable, and if you're doing freelance services, that is a business, but you are not doing business per se. So if you are just an individual, I would suggest that the other income section you saw, where there were fees for technical services, that might be more appropriate for you.
Bilal is asking a question. Can I adjust my children's educational expenses in my income tax return?
Oh, definitely, and you can even get a tax rebate for that. And even the tax you pay on that educational fee, if it's above that limit where you have to pay the tax, even that is adjustable. So all good news for you. Next.
Tariq is asking a question. How can we put the personal expenses for the whole year? Does it need the actual expenses or approximate expenses?
Well, as per the law, they need to be the actual expenses practically because most of the people don't have the documentation. They use the approximate expenses, but that can be a problem if an audit is called for. So I suggest keep all your bills handy. You're a qualified accountant, man. You should be in the habit of maintaining your records. So legally, you have to keep the records for 6 years. So pile up all your bills in a file, put that away somewhere safe for 6 years, and go to sleep peacefully. Or alternatively, have a good tax accountant or consultant, hand your documents over to them. Not only will they file your tax returns, take care of your tax planning, they'll keep your records safe for you for 6 years. Or if you are one, then you need to do the same for your client. Next.
Samal Bhatti is asking a question. Are assets to be shown on current value or cost price?
It depends on how the assets were acquired. Next.
Bilal is asking a question. If plot is in the name of my wife and I have made payments of it monthly, do I need to show or not?
Well, your wife is required to be a filer and show that. And if your wife is dependent on you and not a filer, then you need to disclose that. Next.
Irfan is asking a question. If I am filing my return for the first time, my assets earned from last few years would be greater than the income I have earned in the current year and it will not reconcile. How can I reconcile?
Where are you? 6 what?
677.
Okay. Well, I went ahead of you. Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah. Irfan is asking a question. If I am filing my return for the first time, my assets earned from last few years would be greater than the income I have earned in the current year and it will not reconcile. How can I reconcile it?
Why would it not reconcile? It would definitely reconcile because you would have some opening assets. You would have the listing of the assets that you have acquired. Your income would just be for this year, where you'll have some additions for assets this year. If you had paid, if you have noticed in the reconciliation statement, we have assets from the previous year, add adjustments, add inflows minus outflows is equal to asset for this year. Shouldn't be a problem. If you still face any problem, you have my contact details, just get in touch. Next.
Nabil is asking a question. Can a non-filer not even buy a used car?
They can buy used car, can't buy new cars. What is this question by Ali?
It's just to become a filer, it's quite vague.
No, I think they are broken because even same happened with Avas and Bilal. I think multiple people were asking questions. So like we got the broken and then we will have a part later on. Okay, carry on please.
They should have written the question in the same go.
Okay. Oh, no, I got it. When I was asking the questions, these were supposed to be an answer to those questions.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Bilal is asking a question. Why ask not residents for adjustable taxes? Why not just be a simple submission without any data? I don't think they will be getting any refund.
Well, that's what you think. Obviously, FBR thinks differently. Next.
That's a nice answer.
Ali Beg said benefits and later they asked how money come when you permanently shift to Pakistan. Well, Ali, if you are coming from overseas, then that's not a problem because you have the money trail, the money came through banking channel, no problem. The problem happens with IAMAs who don't have a money trail and who can't justify that. So if you are a legitimate Pakistani, I was an overseas Pakistani when I came to Pakistan, no problem, because I sent the money through banking channels and I had the money trail, so I could justify that. Yeah, if you can't justify, then that's a problem, but that's happened anywhere in the world. I mean, even in the US or Europe or UK, anywhere where there is a proper accounting system, proper tax system, they ask you for the source of income, and you have that record. And here there is even a greater incentive still, that even up to a very material amount, if you are sending dollars from overseas through banking channel and in cashing in Pak rupee, you are not asked any question. You are not even taxed on that. So,
Faraz is asking a question as principal officer, could be director, company secretary, finance director in case of.
Yes.
It's an answer.
Okay.
Ali is asking a question. There was educational expenses in the individual return. Please explain that.
I guess I've just explained in response to another query that you can claim them. They can be your own educational expenses or one of your dependents who you have paid for.
Irfan is asking a question. I had leased vehicle for my cousin. How should I treat in my personal return all payments made by my cousin?
Then why should you do it in your return? Your cousin should be doing it.
But
Was that a benami? You did it in your name.
Yes, exactly. He leased a vehicle for his cousin. His cousin is making payments, but
Well, then you'll treat them as if you were doing that by the book, or allow your cousin to take that benefit because it actually belongs to him. How you do that? The payment that you are making would be your expense, and you'll be registering an asset of the same amount against that. And any withholding taxes that are deducted could be claimable in your return.
Bilal Awan is asking a question.
You are missing. Ijazullah. Thank you, Umar. A good session. Thanks, ACC. You're welcome. Bilal Awan. Yeah. Where can I adjust gratuity in my tax return? You did see that pension, gratuity, and annuity in the other sources of income. That's where you'll adjust that. Ehsan Iqbal, ACC Umar, thanks for a very informative session. Well, I like the name ACC Umar. Hey, well, you are most welcome.
I was to read these compliments at the end of the session.
All of them.
All of them together.
Okay.
That would sound.
Most of the members would have on, so just read them in between.
Sure. Amit Kumar is asking, in declaration tab there are two forms of 114. Which one is for salaried individuals?
No, there are not two forms in the declaration tab. There is only one form. The second form would be for another tax year. So 1141 is basically the income tax return under normal tax regime. How many tax years you select would matter, as if you are just filing for 2018, so you'll have one. You have filed for 2017. Now you thought I want to go and complete my record for 5 years. You filed for 2016, 15, 14. Now you'll have 5. So it's not how many 1141 are in your declaration. That simply shows how many tax returns you have filed. And that would be showing the tax year in front, so you can identify which tax return relates to which tax year. Hope that helps.
Amit Ehsan Iqbal again is complimenting you. Umar, thanks for a very informative session.
You're welcome.
And as Jay Kumar is saying, what if we register today, so wealth would be restricted to this year income, less personal income?
Well, if you register today, you have to justify your opening wealth. So the concept of the wealth would be same: opening wealth, add income for the year, minus any expenses, plus minus any gifts you have received or given or inheritance, should be equal to your closing wealth. If it's not, it's questionable.
Usman Khan is asking, please describe the unreconciled amount as it confuses me.
Any amount that is left, if your opening and closing are not equal, that amount is the unreconciled amount. Opening and closing wealth.
Ehsan is asking, if a payment made to Microsoft Netherlands, non-resident from Pakistan, will Section 153 apply?
Well, the section concerning the taxes on non-resident payment to non-residents would apply. If they were to have a local presence, then the contract section would start applying if it was a contract. Till then, the section dealing with payments to non-residents would apply.
Rana Ali Salan Khan is asking a question. If, as a distributor, I send the GST invoice to customer not mentioning the sales tax amount, wrongly considered as exempt supplies, but in actual there was a sales tax liability and I have filed the sales tax returning mentioning zero sales tax against that invoice, what will be the correction of this other than revising the return?
You have to revise the return to correct it. And if you don't do that and it comes to the light, you'll be penalized, you'll have to pay default surcharge, in worst case, proceeding under tax fraud. So I suggest you better revise that.
Ijaz is asking, can you please explain the new category in the declaration tab of tax return under section 114, return of income for a person deriving income only from salary and other sources where salary is more than 50% of the income filed voluntarily for complete year. I guess you have answered this.
Yeah, it basically the tax slabs have been introduced, and what they matter is if your salary income is 50% or more of your total income, then certain rates apply on your salary income. And if your salary income is less proportion of your total income, then different rates apply. That's why you have to differentiate and point out whether your salary income is 50% or more of your total income. I hope that helps. It's basically to do with the tax rates. Next.
Bilal Khan is asking, do I need to show disputed plot in my return and do I have to attach all documents?
Disputed mean it's not really in your name, right?
Yeah.
So how would you declare something that's not in your name? Next.
Might be litigation.
Yeah. So the title is not clear, no?
Tahir Hussain is asking, where could we get a summary of deductible, non-deductible expenses for individual and companies?
If you are asking the data summary, then you should have it. If you are asking like the printout and record from your IRS login.
Murid Isaac is asking, why should I overstate my wealth in my first tax return?
Why shouldn't I?
Why shouldn't I overstate? Sorry. Why shouldn't I overstate my wealth in my first tax return with the aspect of future tax planning?
Well, three answers, Maurice. It's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. It's against ACCS Code of Ethics. It's tax fraud. And if you are caught, there are serious implications. Are you willing to do that?
Tariq Khan, sir, what if I am paying my brother education expenses? Can I claim those
Yes.
deductible allowances? Ali Farouk, should I declare a house as it was transferred to legal heirs after the death of my father?
All the legal heirs would declare as per the share they've gotten.
Jay Kumar is asking a question, what are procedures to increase white money?
Well, require an altogether different session. Just send me an email or call me in spare time.
Syed Ahmed Hussain Naqvi, sir, what is your opinion regarding the restriction on the purchase of properties and vehicles by non-filers?
Well, now this is a good step, but there should be proper enforcement with penal clauses to ensure that the economy become documented and people come within the taxpayer. Having said that, procedural issues need to be rectified with procedural reforms and proper exceptions created with regard to people who shouldn't be there, such as widows, underage, students, pensioners. They should be given proper procedure to avail the benefits without being penalized for something for which they are not even liable.
Anamta Zafar is asking a question. If someone wants to send money from Canada to Pakistan, like $10,000 for family, what is the legal way? And will it be taxed?
Anamta, you can send that through banking channel, and if you send $10,000 through banking channel in a foreign currency like dollars, you have sent dollars to Pakistani bank, and your family has encashed in Pak rupee. That's the legal way. No question asked, no tax. Next.
Usman Khan is again appreciating you. Thank you very much for all of this session. It has been quite helpful.
You're most welcome, Usman.
Jay Kumar is asking a question. Again, he's appreciate the kind response.
Thanks, Jay.
In
I think it's Jay. Thanks, Jay.
And
what if we do file return for 10 years in order to increase white money to any complication and demerit? Well, Jay, the income tax ordinance basically goes back only 5 years. So normally what the practitioners and tax planners do is file your tax returns for last 5 years. However, as you're mentioning tax planning again and again, I suggest you do consult with a tax planner because this is a very specialized area and it really depends on your specific circumstances. There is no one size fit all. Next.
Mohammed Bokas is asking a question.
Imad Ahmed says, thank you, Marian ACC, for a very informative session. My many issues for filing returns are clear now. Well, Imad, we are glad this happened, and that was actually the.
This is the reason why we are here. If someone is registered as a business individual but did perform any business activity and is a salaried person, how can he?
Well, there is a process to amend the NTN, and unfortunately not part of today's session, but you can send me an email and I'll guide you, or send me a WhatsApp message. Basically, you'll file to amend your order of 181 and the commissioner would approve that, and then the business would be taken out of your NTN registration.
Bilal wants, sir, is provident fund to be shown in salary income or any other head?
No, not salary income, it's from other sources of income. If you are making the contributions, then within the salary section.
Faraz Ahmed, please explain the income tax refund procedure and standard time for it.
Can't times up, but send me an email or call me in the spare time, and it really depends which area you are talking about. You are talking about refund for section 153, you are talking about refund on your net profits. What is the refund related to? What is the structure of your business? So it all depends on that. Practically, people are not getting refunds. Our firm is lucky in that we have a reputation of getting refunds. You can always get in touch, no problem. Next.
Ali Farouk is asking how to record income from Kareem.
Income from Kareem, that would be your other income. You are basically getting commissions as per my knowledge of Kareem. So you'll declare that as the commission income.
Ahmed Khan is asking, given the rise in fake bank accounts, is there a regulatory body like credit agency which issues credit reports to individuals showing all the financial relations bank accounts?
Not on the level of Europe, but yes, there are certain checks now. Banks have started maintaining lists, but how is that relevant to filing an income tax return? Next.
Jaz Mazhar, I am a member of ACCA since last year. Am I authorized to file a tax return for someone else?
Well, you can file if they allow you, but the thing is this: if you want to practice tax, you need to become a member of a tax bar to properly do it, and ACC has MOUs with almost all the major bars, so it shouldn't be an issue. You would normally be required to produce your certificate and letter of good standing from ACCA, as well as experience letter, depending on the bar's requirement, normally between 2 to 5 years, showing that you have worked in an authorized member firm fulfilling the requirements of that bar for that period of time. Hope that helps. Next.
Subhash Kumar is asking, what is the tax implication if my father transfers property on my name?
Well, it depends how he's transferring, whether profit, whether on some profit basis it's a sale transaction or a gift. If it's just a gift, there shouldn't be any tax on it.
Again, there is a flurry of compliments for you, sir. Thank you for the informative session. This is a great session. It was very helpful, and thanks for the very interactive session. And Fizan is asking a question, what would be the tax withholding scenario if a vendor is inactive in income tax status but holds exemption?
First of all, let me say welcome to all the people who are thanking, and thanks for your kind compliment. That basically motivates us, and that's the purpose why we are here. Now, answering the question of Bilal or Fizan.
Fizan.
What would be the tax withholding scenario if vendor is inactive in income tax status but holds exemption? Well, if a vendor is inactive, how can they hold the exemption? They can't hold exemption if they are inactive. Inactive means that they are no longer active in FBR's data and they are basically out of the sphere. So they can't hold an exemption certificate. If they had an exemption certificate from before, I suggest you to ask them to get a letter from FBR, because this is a negative indication. If you do not hold the withholding tax of this guy, and well, you know what? Let me make your life easy. Just go online. I showed you the FBR website. Click on the exemption certificate. Enter his exemption certificate details. If it comes as valid, don't deduct. If it comes as invalid, which I believe it would if he is inactive, deduct the tax. Life becomes so much easier. Yeah, cool.
Bilal Awan is asking, I have one plot and it is in the name of my friend, but I have share in it. My friend shows in the return.
You can also show it in your return partially. And Mogi says, can I provide tax services without being a member of the bar? Just limited. If someone is comfortable, friends, family, to file you can file their return, then that's it. But you can't really be a full-fledged tax consultant without that. That's the law of the land. That's how it's regulated. Just like if you need to do the external audit, you need to also be registered with SCCP. So the similar concept applies here. Tahir Hussain, what would be the consequences of filing income or expense in the wrong head? Well, that can be a case of misdeclaration, etc. So I suggest you be very careful there, because there are serious implications. And I'm answering the question, and more and more and more are coming. Anyway, we need to put a time bar here at 7:10, so maybe another 5 minutes. So you need to be very careful when filing your return to select the correct tax, because in worst cases you can be prosecuted, and as a minimum you might face penalties, surcharges, etc. Faraz, when will we get the certificate? Within 3 to 5 days. Tariq, can we keep these videos up to ACCA student? I don't know what you mean, but you'll have the videos available, no issue. Ahmad Ahmed, please hold a session on sales tax as well. Okay, Matt, I'll pass on your suggestion, and inshallah, hopefully we'll do that. Cash gifts are acceptable by authorities, or we have to give only by banking channel? Well, cash gifts are acceptable, but you have to have the legal documentation to prove that they actually existed and happened. And then the guy or the person or institution or anyone who gifted you should have the trail, if need be, to prove that they had those assets to liquidate and give you in cash. Fizan had got the practical scenario where a vendor was registered but inactive and held valid tax exemption certificate. Should I need? Well, Fizan, I made your life easier already. Just verify on FBR's website if the exemption certificate is valid, then it's FBR's headache. If not, then you need to deduct the withholding tax. Please conduct a session on sales tax. Okay, sure, we'll do. And boom, we are done with the questions. Thank you very much, guys. Do share your opinion, rate the session if you like it, how much you like it. Let us know the topics you'd like to have the session on. Let us know if you want another session in more detail on the income tax ordinance, on income tax return filing, the income tax ordinance, and sales tax return section. I will pass that on to ACC, and hopefully we'll be having a session on that. Thank you very much for sparing the time today, and you guys are most welcome. Have a good day and a nice evening, and take care of yourself.